Today is awakening day for the senior year students. Inside a bus, a young man named Jiang Yan stares blankly in shock. He looks around the crowded bus and realizes he has returned to the past, exactly 2.5 years before Nanrong City is destroyed. He remembers how 12 years ago, countless demon rifts appeared across the world. Monsters poured out from these rifts and slaughtered humans. When humanity tried to counterattack, they discovered that firearms and nuclear weapons were disabled by magical interference inside the demon rift world. Later, humanity found that anyone who reached the age of 18 and approached a demon rift could awaken into different classes. They gained talent skills to fight the monsters. After 5 years of fighting, the awakened humans managed to control the rifts. Human society changed, and now every 18-year-old must visit a demon rift to awaken their class. Classes are divided into combat, support, and crafting. Combat and support classes are highly valued, while crafting classes are looked down upon as mere workers. Jiang Yan remembers that in his previous life, he attended an F-rank crafting class. However, his talent skill was a divine skill called Modify. By changing a single character in the name of a skill or item, he could turn trash into treasure. When he revealed this skill in his past life, powerful figures summoned him. They forced him to modify their skills and equipment. Because his skill was so powerful, they feared him, imprisoned him, and controlled his growth. This continued until a massive level 96 dragon beast emerged from the rift. On that same day, Jiang Yan had just reached level 70. He suspects his captors used the beast to kill him because he was becoming too strong to control. Right before he died, he activated his Modify skill and changed his talent skill from Revive into Rebirth. Because of this, he was sent back in time. The bus driver announces that they are approaching the Nanrong Demon Rift. Jiang Yan decides that in this life, he will never tell anyone about his ability. He vows to keep it a secret so he can quietly grow stronger and protect his city. The bus arrives at the Hunter Association Awakening Plaza. One student nervously says he hopes he doesn't get a trash crafting class and would settle for an F-rank combat class. Jiang Yan walks calmly with his hands in his pockets. The other students watch him and say they are jealous because he was born with full mana capacity and ranked first in academics and combat. They assume he will awaken a powerful combat class. Another student named Yang Hongwei, who ranks second in the class, walks up behind them. He glares at Jiang Yan and states that academic and combat ranks have nothing to do with the awakening classes. Yang Hongwei laughs and says that people with extremely high mana affinity still awaken useless F-rank classes all the time. A teacher calls Jiang Yan up first and tells him to place both hands on the crystal sphere to awaken his class panel. Jiang walks toward the platform and thinks to himself that unlike everyone else, he already knows what will happen. The other students watch closely. Some hope he becomes unbelievably strong, while Yang Hongwei prays he gets a weak crafting class. Jiang places his hand over the floating blue orb. Bright golden energy swirls around him. A system screen appears above him showing the class Repairman. The screen confirms his name, 100% mana affinity, crafting class type, and F-rank status. The teacher and students look on in disbelief that the top student awakened an F-rank. Yang Hongwei grabs his own face and laughs uncontrollably. He mocks Jiang Yan for being ahead of him for 3 years, only to end up as an F-rank repairman. Jiang thinks that a repairman can at least open a shop and make money, unlike a farmer class. Suddenly, the crystal sphere glows brightly again. The teacher shouts that the sphere is reacting and Jiang is awakening a second class. The students are shocked because dual classes are extremely rare and usually belong to powerful geniuses. The teacher hopes the second class will make up for the first F rank. A massive pillar of light shoots up, and the screen updates to show the class Farmer. Jiang's status panel now displays 2 F-rank crafting classes, Repairman and Farmer. The entire crowd falls silent in shock before bursting into hysterical laughter. They point and mock the top student for getting double F ranks. Jiang walks away quietly as the teacher sighs, calling him incredibly unlucky for turning into trash. However, Jiang smiles to himself and knows his classes are at the bottom, but his talent skill is what matters. He opens his system interface to view the Modify skill. It costs 100 mana and allows him to change one character in the name of a skill, equipment, or item. He selects the Farmer class talent skill, which is currently Growth Boost. It costs 100 mana and increases plant growth speed by 10%. Using his Modify skill, he changes Growth Boost into Revive. The talent skill successfully updates to Revive. The new description states it can revive the target, including himself, and restore all injuries. Jiang smiles and notes that, as long as he uses this skill properly, it will be his greatest trump card. He walks toward a large digital bulletin board displaying the freshman rankings. He plans to take first place on both rankings. He wants to show everyone the power of an F-rank class and claim the massive resources given to the top student. He vows that in this life, he will become the strongest all on his own. He walks toward the entrance of the hunting zone and asks a knight for his starter gear. Two officials whisper to each other, assuming Jiang is in denial about his dual F-rank classes since he used to be the top student in both academics and combat. The knight hands him his gear and tells him to call for a rescue knight if he gets overwhelmed by the charging rabbits. Jiang receives a level 1 iron sword that grants 5 attack power and level 1 leather boots that grant 3 speed. He remembers that in his past life, he only received the sword. He appreciates the boots, but knows the knight pities him. He steps through the glowing gate and enters the hunting grounds. In the tall grass, several rabbits watch him. A system screen identifies them as level 1 adult charging rabbits. They are common demonic beasts, with crystal armor on their heads used for ramming. Jiang draws his sword and sets a goal to reach level 5 right there. He calculates that he needs to kill at least 100 of them to do so. A massive horde of rabbits rushes toward him. Jiang stays calm and swings his sword, slicing cleanly through the beasts. He notes that reaching level 5 will qualify him to challenge the Cyclone Wolf base. While it is a nightmare for normal rookies, it is the perfect grinding spot for him. He moves quickly through the horde, striking down rabbits with rapid sword slashes until a golden light surrounds his body. A system notification announces that he has leveled up to level 2. He continues to slash his way through the monsters. Meanwhile, back at the Awakening Plaza, Yang Hongwei stands on the platform. The crystal sphere glows with intense golden energy as it reacts to his touch. A system screen flashes, revealing that he has awakened the combat class Berserker. Yang throws his arms into the air and laughs, celebrating his powerful new class. The students are amazed that Yang Hongwei awakened an A-rank primary combat class. Yang points to himself and proudly declares that he is no longer number 2. He says he played second fiddle to Jiang Yan for 3 years, but now there is only one number 1 in the senior class, and it is him. His friends cheer and ask how Jiang Yan can compete with him now. Yang asks where Jiang went because he wants to show off his new A-rank profession. One of the students points toward the novice training base. Yang smiles and tells his friends they should go help Jiang out, clearly intending to make a fool of him. A teacher watches them leave and worries for Jiang Yan, noting that Yang always uses his family's wealth to bully people. Inside the training base, Jiang Yan sits panting on top of a massive pile of defeated rabbits. He has reached level 4. Suddenly, a level 4 mutated charging rabbit appears with a glowing crystal on its head. The rabbit activates a skill called Flame Headburst. This skill causes the fire elemental crystal armor on its head to detonate, dealing massive damage to the enemy and itself. The rabbit explodes in a huge blast of fire. Jiang stands calmly in the smoke as rocks fall around him. He notes that the rabbit's self-destruct skill works well. A system screen appears showing that Jiang has reached level 5. Outside the training base, a large screen flashes with an announcement. It says the clear record for the charging rabbit stage has been shattered by Jiang Yan with a time of 26 minutes and 2 seconds. Yang Hongwei and his friends arrive and stare at the screen in disbelief. One of them points out that the previous record was 1 hour and 17 minutes, meaning Jiang cut the clear time in half. Yang glares at the screen and claims Jiang must have cheated because a dual F rank could not clear the base that fast. He decides to go inside and expose Jiang to ruin his reputation. Back inside the base, Jiang sits on a rock, surrounded by a green aura as he uses a regeneration skill. He decides it is time to head to the next stage of the training base. He thinks about the boss of the next area, known as the Cyclone Wolf King. Jiang remembers that the beast gave him a hard time in his past life. He stands up, rests his iron sword on his shoulder, and walks forward. He smiles and says that this time around, it is his turn to collect some interest. Jiang arrives at the entrance of the Cyclone Wolf base. He knows that regular wolves here are level 6 to 9, and the boss is level 10. Because freshmen are normally only level 1 to 5, this base is considered a slaughterhouse. However, defeating the Wolf King gives enough experience to reach level 10 immediately. Reaching level 10 unlocks a second innate skill and gives him permission to hunt in the wild alone. A teacher with a clipboard stops him at the gate and asks if he is sure he wants to go in alone. He warns Jiang that even level 8 or 9 students need a party of 6 to survive. The teacher calls Jiang dual F rank trash and asks if he is trying to get himself killed. Jiang politely thanks him for the concern but states his mind is already made up. The teacher gets angry and tells Jiang he won't stop him if he wants to die. Jiang enters the gate, refusing to let the teacher's insults slow his progress. Inside, a pack of massive cyclone wolves charges at him. Jiang swings his sword and easily slices through the beasts with a glowing blue strike. System notifications pop up, showing he gained 10 experience points per kill. From an observation deck above, the teacher watches in absolute shock. He cannot believe Jiang is killing the wolves so easily without even using an innate skill. Realizing Jiang is actually a genius, the teacher sneaks away so he won't be humiliated when Jiang finishes. Sometime later, Jiang sits on top of a massive pile of dead wolves. He is covered in blood and breathing heavily. A green aura surrounds him as he uses his regeneration skill. His system shows he is now level 9 and only 0.01% away from leveling up. He notes that the wolves were much stronger and smarter than the rabbits. He admits the intensity was so high that he would have died hundreds of times if not for his healing skill. The regeneration skill heals all of his physical wounds, but Jiang notes that it does not take away the pain. He stands up and pulls his sword out of a wolf carcass. He tells himself that the pain does not matter because he must endure it to change his destiny. The level 10 Cyclone Wolf King steps forward, showing its giant fangs and glowing green eyes. A system screen explains that the beast is born with hair that resonates with wind elements to increase its running power. Jiang remembers from his past life that the boss has two specific skills, Wind Speed and Wind Blade Claw. The Wolf King roars and activates Wind Speed, surrounding its body with swirling green energy to increase its speed by 20 points. The system details the Wolf King's second skill, Wind Blade Claw, which deals 110% of its attack power. Jiang Yan considers his options but realizes there isn't much room to modify these two skills without causing errors. He decides to solve the problem directly. Tearing off his ruined shirt, he states that, aside from his god-tier innate skill, he is also the top-ranked student in combat and academics. He grips his sword, which glows with bright blue energy, and charges straight at the Wolf King. Outside at the charging rabbit base, Yang Hongwei's friends collapse on the ground, panting and thankful they called for help before dying. A teacher yells at them for trespassing into the advanced area. Yang Hongwei is furious that he couldn't clear the boss zone even with a party. He refuses to believe Jiang Yan cleared his base alone and is convinced he cheated. One of Yang's friends looks at the leaderboard and notes that the previous record was around 1 hour and 29 minutes, but Jiang cleared it in a fraction of that time. Yang smiles evilly and tells his group they are going to the Cyclone Wolf base to expose Jiang and completely disgrace him. Back inside the boss room, Jiang has successfully reached level 10. The system announces that his second innate skills can now be awakened. He receives the Artisan class skill Durability and the Farmer class skill Plant Grafting. His status screen updates, showing his new level and a massive mana pool of 1,900. Jiang immediately activates his Modify skill. He changes Plant Grafting into All Things Grafting. He pulls his sword from the ground, realizing he has obtained a god-tier skill for creating contracted demonic beasts. The new skill costs 200 mana and allows him to graft the genes of two biological species together to randomly create a new superior or inferior creature. The base success rate for a superior creature is 10%, but Jiang knows it will become 100% once the skill reaches level 10. He explains that this skill allows beasts to obtain even stronger racial abilities, making it highly probable to create an S-rank beast by combining two A-rank ones. He plans to use a Beast Tamer skill scroll to contract the resulting creature as his loyal battle pet. Jiang looks down at his sword and remembers the powerful figures from his past life who kept him captive in the shadows, using him to modify their items. He vows that in this life, all the achievements they obtained by exploiting him will become his exclusive power. Jiang places his sword on his shoulder and decides it is time to head back after fighting for half a day. He notices a glowing green magic crystal resting on the Wolf King's body. He knows these crystals have a very low drop rate and are worth a fortune because they add powerful effects to equipment. However, any materials dropped inside the training base belong to the institution. He notes that materials obtained outside in the wild will belong to him, so he plans to head there next. Suddenly, he coughs up blood. His injuries from the intense fight are severe, and his regeneration skill cannot heal them. He realizes he does not have enough money for a hospital visit. The best option is to kill himself to activate his revive skill, which will restore all of his injuries upon death. He knows he cannot commit suicide in front of the knights guarding the base without attracting unwanted attention, so he decides to find a secluded spot. He puts his torn shirt back on and walks out of the giant base doors. Outside, a massive crowd of students is gathered in the plaza. Jiang wonders why there are so many people. The crowd immediately spots him and points, yelling that he is the freshman who shattered the clear record. Jiang realizes the senior students gathered just to see him. As he walks through the crowd, he sweats and clutches his bleeding chest. His injuries are getting worse, but he knows he cannot use revive in front of everyone. He tries to figure out a way to shake the crowd off. Suddenly, a bright golden light wraps around his body. The students are amazed and recognize the magic as the S-rank support class, Holy Angel. The caster is a girl named Yao Kexin from the prestigious Yao family. The students are shocked that she came to the base. The golden light completely heals Jiang's wounds. He looks at his glowing hands and feels relieved. He walks up to Yao Kexin and thanks her for treating him. He offers to repair her equipment in the future as a way to repay the favor. He thinks to himself that a healer is exactly the kind of support he urgently needs, and he hopes to work with her later. Yao Kexin smiles gently and tells him not to mention it, adding that she will definitely rely on him when her gear breaks. Just then, Yang Hongwei pushes his way to the front of the crowd. He smirks at Jiang and loudly calls him a cheating mutt. Yang Hongwei yells to the crowd, telling them not to let Jiang fool them. He claims Jiang's speed clear record was obtained through cheating since he is just a double F-rank trash class user. The students begin to whisper among themselves, questioning how a crafting class with zero combat ability could solo the base and break a record. Yang argues that it is impossible unless Jiang bought an overpowered set of equipment. Since Jiang is known to be a poor student, Yang accuses him of scamming the school's financial aid funds to buy the gear. The crowd immediately turns against Jiang, calling his actions disgusting. Jiang remains calm and asks if Yang wants him to prove he didn't cheat. Yang points at him and demands that Jiang take off his equipment and fight him. He states that if Jiang wins, it proves he did not cheat. Yao Kexin looks worried and tells Jiang not to fall for the trap, assuring him that he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Jiang thanks her for her concern, but he unclips his sword and drops it to the ground. He accepts the challenge. Jiang thinks to himself that he needs to deal with Yang here and now before the bully causes more trouble and interferes with his plans to grow stronger. Yang becomes furious, calling it ridiculous that Jiang thinks he can challenge an A-rank berserker. A red aura erupts around Yang as he screams and activates his talent skill. A system screen shows that he is using the level 1 berserk skill. The skill consumes 1% of the user's life force per minute to amplify battle lust and increase strength, agility, and defense by 30%. Yang threatens to beat Jiang until his teeth scatter across the ground to completely expose his fake mask. Jiang stands relaxed, with his hands in his pockets. He comments on Yang's spirit and hopes he can keep it up. Jiang realizes Yang is trying to crush him through class superiority. However, Jiang notes that while a class is Yang's greatest weapon, it is only icing on the cake for him. Jiang pulls his hands out of his pockets, cracks his knuckles, and takes a bare-handed fighting stance. He vows to teach Yang a lesson, stating that the truly strong remain strong even without awakening a class. Yao Kexin watches them and worries that an A-rank combat class fighting an F-rank crafting class is completely unfair. Jiang says he just needs to beat him. He reveals that he returned all of his equipment before leaving the base, so he is fighting entirely unarmed and barefoot. Yang laughs, calls it good, and charges forward with a glowing red fist. He yells that Jiang's death day is here, but Jiang easily leans back and dodges the punch. Yang refuses to believe Jiang can dodge every attack and unleashes a rapid flurry of punches. Jiang calmly weaves side to side, effortlessly dodging every single strike. Jiang thinks to himself that the A-rank berserker is a powerful class, but attacks mean nothing if they do not land. He notes that Yang is just wasting his stamina by throwing blind punches. Jiang ducks under another swing and tells Yang that he figured out his fighting style long ago over their 3 years in school, but Yang never understood his. Jiang steps forward and delivers a devastating punch directly into Yang's stomach. Yang coughs up, spit, and is launched backward through the air. He crashes hard onto the pavement in front of his shocked friends. Jiang stands tall and says it looks like he came out on top after all. The crowd of students is stunned, unable to believe that an F-rank crafter just defeated an A-rank berserker in hand-to-hand combat. Jiang decides that settles the issue, and there is no point in wasting more time. He dusts off his hands and walks away from the crowd. As he walks down the street, Jiang plans to head into the wilderness soon. First, he needs to get proper equipment. He knows getting good gear won't be a problem with his modify skill, but since he returned his starter gear, he needs to buy base items to modify. He decides to check the street stalls. He pulls out a small handful of change from his pocket and sighs, realizing he doesn't even have enough money to browse the cheap stalls. Suddenly, a fist swings toward the back of his head. Jiang senses the movement, turns around, and effortlessly catches the punch in his palm. He tells the attacker to stop his usual nonsense. A student smiles and says it is expected from the guy who ranked first in combat for 3 straight years. He tosses a blue soda can to Jiang and calls him his old rival. Jiang catches the can and asks if he was watching the fight with Yang Hongwei just now. He explains that Jiang is the only opponent he acknowledges and doesn't even count trash like Yang. Jiang takes a sip and replies that he wasn't even fighting seriously. The rival remembers their match during their first year, where he was forced to surrender. Since then, Jiang forfeited the tournament every year. Jiang asks if he was just trying to give him the first-place scholarship money since he is a rich second-generation kid. The rival denies it, saying Jiang's eyes were simply too ruthless back then. They agree that if they meet in the upcoming national freshman tournament, there will be no holding back or surrendering. They clink their cans together. The rival hands Jiang a black credit card containing 2,000. He explains he is paying in advance to buy Jiang's speed clear strategy for the Wolf King base. He tells Jiang to give it to him soon and walks away. Jiang smiles, vowing to remember the favor and repay it tenfold someday. Now that he has money, Jiang heads to the cheapest black market street stalls he remembers. The narrow, crowded alley is filled with vendors selling basic junk, meaning the chances of finding hidden treasures are low. He stops at a stall selling used weapons run by a man in sunglasses. Jiang inspects a blue sword embedded with a magic crystal. His system identifies it as a level 10, E+ rank Demonfall blade with 40 attack power and freezing effects, but its durability is only at 72%. The vendor says the final price is 18,000, noting it would be worth at least 25,000 at full durability. Since it is ridiculously expensive, Jiang points to a plain level 10 bronze sword nearby. The system shows it only has 15 attack power and 62% durability. The vendor prices it at 5,000. Jiang offers the vendor a deal. He promises to repair the Demonfall blade if the vendor throws in the bronze sword for free. The vendor lowers his sunglasses in surprise and asks if Jiang can actually fix it. A system notification pops up as Jiang activates his artisan innate skill, durability. His hand glows with blue energy, and he tells the vendor they should give it a try. Jiang smiles and reveals that his target was never the expensive Demonfall blade. He actually wanted the basic sword all along because, once he uses his modify skill, he can transform it into a legendary weapon. The vendor crosses his arms and tells Jiang to go ahead and try. Jiang activates his durability skill and holds his hand over the Demonfall blade. A system notification confirms the repair is complete. The blade looks brand new, and the vendor takes off his sunglasses in shock and excitedly inspects the pristine weapon. True to their deal, he hands the basic bronze sword over to Jiang. Jiang takes the sword, knowing its true potential once he modifies it. Suddenly, Yao Kexin walks up behind him in the alley. She asks Jiang if she can hire him to help her level up. She offers to pay him 50,000 just to get her to level 10. A system screen shows that despite having an S-rank Holy Angel class, she is currently level 0. Jiang smiles and immediately agrees, happy that a large sum of money practically delivered itself to his doorstep. Yao Kexin then steps toward the vendor and says she wants to buy the Demonfall blade for Jiang. The vendor wipes the blade with a cloth and warns her that since it is now at full durability, the price is 25,000. Yao Kexin casually pulls out a glowing box of money from a storage ring on her finger. The vendor's eyes widened in shock as he realized she is a young lady from a wealthy family. He bows deeply and holds the sword out to her with both hands. Jiang watches them and notes that the vendor clearly hasn't met many rich people. He observes that none of her clothes are cheap, which explains how she could casually offer him 50,000. Yao Kexin holds out the Demonfall blade with both hands and offers it to Jiang as a gift for their first meeting. She nervously asks him not to dislike it. Jiang is surprised that a rich girl is so polite and gladly accepts the sword. He thanks her and thinks to himself that building goodwill with her is a good idea. He tells her there is no time to waste, and they immediately head to the rookie training base. Inside the base, Jiang moves quickly, slicing through charging rabbits and cyclone wolves. As they fight, Yao Kexin levels up rapidly. A system screen shows her jumping from level 3 to 5, and then a giant golden notification appears, confirming she has reached level 10. Other students watch in shock at how fast she leveled up. Jiang and Yao Kexin then arrive at a new set of large doors. A guard stops them and tells Jiang that he knows he broke the records for the other bases. He warns them that the Netherflame Boar King inside is far more dangerous than the rabbits or wolves. Jiang carries the bronze sword and the Demonfall blade on his back. He replies that greater risks bring greater opportunities, and having an S-rank support with him makes this a rare chance. The guard wishes them luck, and they step through the bright white portal. They enter a misty forest. Yao Kexin looks around and asks why she doesn't see any regular monsters. Jiang explains that this base doesn't have regular monsters because there is only one boss here. She is shocked to hear they are fighting the boss immediately. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake. Jiang draws the Demonfall blade and warns her that the creature is coming. A massive boar with glowing blue eyes emerges from the mist. Yao Kexin hides behind Jiang, terrified by the monster. Jiang calmly smiles and says it is a worthy opponent. The Netherflame Boar King roars, as a system screen identifies it as a level 15 boss with an extremely thick hide and terrifying attack power. Yao Kexin activates her support skills, summoning golden wings to buff Jiang Yan. Jiang grips his Demonfall blade and charges forward. He swings the blue sword and strikes the boar, but the monster's hide is too thick. The blade only leaves a tiny scratch. The boar retaliates, and Jiang jumps backward to dodge. He realizes the Demonfall blade is not strong enough to break the boss's defense. He pulls out the basic bronze sword he bought earlier and activates his modify skill. The weapon glows and a system notification confirms that the bronze sword has been modified into Excalibur. The system screen updates to show Excalibur as an SSS rank level 10 weapon with 9,999 attack power. Its description states it is a legendary divine sword with absolute armor penetration and holy damage. Jiang smirks and dashes back toward the monster. With a single swing, Jiang easily slices right through the Boar King's massive tusk. Yao Kexin watches in shock as the severed tusk crashes to the ground. She cannot believe his attack power just skyrocketed. Jiang calmly asks her to buff him one more time. She quickly casts another golden light spell on him. The Boar King becomes enraged, and massive blue flames erupt across its body. The system warns that the boss has activated its Nether Flame Charge skill. The beast charges at Jiang like a raging blue fireball. Jiang swings Excalibur straight down, and a massive wave of golden energy cleaves directly through the flames. The strike instantly defeats the boar. Yao Kexin blushes and stares at Jiang in awe as he lowers his legendary sword. The Netherflame Boar King rushes toward Jiang Yan, surrounded by blue flames. A system screen shows the boss is using a skill called Netherfire Wild Charge. Jiang activates his Modify skill and changes the word wild to mild, turning the attack into Netherfire Mild Charge. The massive boar immediately slows down to a crawl. Jiang notes that a slow-moving boss poses zero threat. He dashes forward and cleanly slices through the beast. A system notification confirms he modified his weapon back to a cyan steel sword. The boar is slain, and Jiang receives a massive amount of experience points, leveling up to 15. Yao Kexin also receives experience and levels up 3 times in a row, reaching level 12. She stands holding her staff with her eyes tightly closed. Jiang tells her she can open them now. He thinks to himself that having her close her eyes prevented her from discovering his modified skill. He notes that she is an obedient and wealthy teammate with a rare healing class, making her perfect for future dungeons. Yao Kexin opens her eyes and is shocked to see the giant monster defeated. She praises Jiang for slaying the boss entirely on his own. Jiang states the leveling job is complete and suggests they leave. Yao Kexin admires his talent and professional nature, then asks him to wait a moment. She hands him a small box containing a silver ring with a blue gem. She explains it is a small token of appreciation along with the payment she promised. Jiang recognizes it as a spatial ring, a highly valuable item forged with space attribute magic that can store objects. He tries to decline the gift because even a small spatial ring is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yao Kexin insists, stating that he needs it more than she does, and that it is a well-deserved reward for helping her gain 2 extra levels. Jiang considers his upcoming trip into the wilderness and realizes the ring will be incredibly convenient. He accepts the gift and tells her that to balance the scales, he will grant her one unconditional favor in the future, as long as it does not violate his principles. Jiang tells Yao Kexin they are done leveling for the day, and they head back to the city. As they walk, Jiang looks at a large digital billboard displaying the freshman level rankings. He is currently in first place at level 15. He notes that the rankings are insanely competitive this year because the city awakened an unusually high number of S-rank and A-rank combat classes. He recognizes the students ranked just behind him, including an S-rank Sword Saint, an A-rank Blazing Fist, and an S-rank Gale Assassin. He remembers them as powerful figures from his past life. He knows they will all become his opponents if he wants to stay number 1, and he looks forward to fighting them. Before worrying about the rankings, Jiang decides to go home. He remembers how he was taken away in his previous life, leaving his little sister to grow up all alone. He vows to make up for that regret. He arrives at his small apartment and sits down to eat dinner with his sister. He recalls that the death of their parents in a past monster attack hit her very hard. During dinner, his sister suddenly announces she wants to quit school. Jiang asks why, noting that her entrance exams are coming up, and she has straight A's in both academics and combat. She explains that she saw his first place ranking and knows he will become a powerful awakened to protect the world. She claims that even with good grades, she will never amount to anything, so she should start working early to support the household instead of wasting time. Jiang looks at her seriously and says he knows that is not her real reason. He tells her he wants to hear the truth. Just then, the front door opens and a middle-aged man walks in. He realizes he interrupted their dinner and awkwardly asks if he should come back later. He rubs his head and explains that his loan company is struggling to stay afloat, otherwise he wouldn't have come. Jiang recognizes the man as Uncle Quan. Jiang thinks about how he and his sister borrowed money from Uncle Quan over the past 2 years to pay for their living expenses. He realizes Uncle Quan must have come by earlier that day to collect the debt. Jiang concludes this is the real reason his sister wants to quit school and start working. Jiang realizes his sister saw his high ranking and knows they have no source of income. He understands she wants to sacrifice her own future and work to send him to university instead of being a burden. Jiang asks Uncle Quan how much they owe for the past 2 years. Uncle Quan says the debt is around 43,000, but he demands 50,000. claiming the extra amount is for interest. Jiang immediately hands Uncle Quan the bank card containing the 50,000 he just earned. His sister is shocked and asks where he got the money. Uncle Quan takes the payment and quickly leaves the apartment to give them privacy. Once they are alone, his sister worries that he obtained the money illegally. Jiang pats her head and assures her he earned it using his own abilities. He tells her she no longer needs to worry about money. He explains his plan to become the #1 student on the city's freshman rankings and the top scorer in the upcoming college entrance exams. The prize money for first place is 300,000, so she does not need to drop out to support him. He hands her the card so she can use the remaining money. He encourages her to study and train hard, noting that once he becomes the top genius, she will face pressure as his sister and needs to be strong too. She cries, hugs him tightly, and promises she will not disgrace their family name. Jiang holds her and thinks to himself that he must find a way to make money and level up at the same time to secure the top scorer title. He decides to head outside the human-controlled area of the Demon Rift to Poison Dragon Valley. The valley is a giant crater filled with toxic gas, but the monsters there are above level 20, making it a perfect grinding spot. He also recalls a rumor that a dragon-type boss is sealed inside. He hopes to find a dragon egg, so he can use his all things grafting skill. He also plans to mine magic crystals in the valley to sell for extra cash. He decides to leave for the valley tomorrow. The bus arrives at the Nanrong Demon Rift station. Jiang steps off and notes that to reach the uncharted wilderness, he must enter the rift first. The Nanrong Rift City is separated from the real world by a spatial passage and serves as humanity's primary defense against demonic beast invasions. It is overseen by 2 powerful exalts above level 70. Jiang remembers that in his past life, he was forced to hand over plenty of his resources to them. Inside the rift, the streets are packed with people equipped with high-end, expensive gear to stay battle-ready. However, Jiang looks at them and thinks their equipment looks like cheap junk compared to the spatial ring Yao Kexin gave him. He realizes the girl is absolutely loaded. He walks toward the East Gate, which is the fastest route to Poison Dragon Valley. He notes that out of all the charted zones in the rift, the valley is relatively safe. The beasts there range from level 13 to 18, making it the perfect grinding spot for his current level. At the gate, a guard checks his student ID. Seeing Jiang's dual F-rank status, the guard warns him that the wilderness is not like the rookie training bases and people actually die out there. Jiang takes his card back, thanks the guard for his concern, and walks away, stating he will come back alive. Refusing to let a kid throw his life away, the guard reaches out to grab Jiang's shoulder. Jiang casually steps to the side, effortlessly dodging the grab. The guard is shocked that he missed, noting that he is a level 30 awakened. The guard captain steps in and tells him to let the kid go. He reveals that the student is Jiang Yan, the one who completely defied the profession gap, set new solo clear records at the training base, and ranks first in academics and combat. The guards watch Jiang walk into the wasteland, completely baffled at how an F-rank can be that strong. Jiang arrives at the entrance of Poison Dragon Valley, which is filled with glowing green toxic gas. He swallows a small blue antidote pill. He notes that the pills cost $50 each, and the effect only lasts 3 hours. Since he is completely broke, he knows he has to make every second count. Immediately, 3 level 13 poison-winged lizards dive out of the green mist toward him. Jiang draws his sword and swiftly cuts them down in a single strike. System notifications show he gained 2.7% level progression from just 3 kills. Pleased with the progress, he decides to speed up the grind. He activates his Modify skill and changes the name of his Cyan Steel Sword into a Cyan Steel Sword. With his modified weapon glowing brightly, Jiang declares it is time to hunt. He charges deep into the valley, unleashing rapid slashes. He slaughters massive waves of poison-winged lizards, gaining huge amounts of experience and reaching level 16. He continues his rampage, cutting through a horde of carrion poison toads to reach level 17. Finally, he clears out a massive swarm of miasma rotbots, leveling up to 18. After the intense grind, Jiang sits down on a stone in the forest and takes a drink of water to rest. Jiang sits on a rock and checks his system panel, which shows he is level 18 with 8.9% progression. He complains that his luck is garbage because he slaughtered his way through the forest but did not get a single mana crystal drop. A voice suddenly asks if he killed all the monsters in the area. 2 students walk out of the forest. Jiang recognizes the leader as Lu Yuan, an S-rank Gale assassin from a top faction. Lu Yuan's lackey yells at Jiang for ignoring them. Jiang casually replies that he was the one who killed the monsters and begins to walk away. Lu Yuan stops his lackey and tells Jiang he knows who he is. He praises Jiang's skills and asks if he wants to team up. Jiang immediately declines and continues walking. The lackey gets angry and asks Lu Yuan to let him teach Jiang a lesson for being arrogant. Lu Yuan tells him to wait, noting that Jiang might be a real genius for surviving solo. He promises the lackey can attack Jiang the next time they run into him. 1 hour later, Jiang realizes he only has one antidote pill left. He decides to hunt a few more toads to reach level 19 and then head out. He stops to rest and thinks it is a pity he hasn't seen any sign of the rumored dragon boss in the valley. Suddenly, a long tongue shoots out of the mist as a sneak attack. Jiang dodges it and swings his sword, but the blade bounces off without leaving a scratch. A massive toad emerges from the fog. A system screen identifies it as a level 20 boss called the Miasma Demon Toad King. It has 3 innate skills: mutated toad skin, giant tongue, snare, and bone-rotting venom. Jiang smiles and decides to claim his first mana crystal from the boss. The toad immediately activates giant tongue snare, whipping its massive tongue at Jiang. Jiang dodges the rapid strikes and says he already figured out how to break the skill. He activates his modify skill and changes the letter in giant tongue snare, turning it into giant tongue snarl. The toad's tongue instantly wraps around itself and ties into a tight knot. Seeing his chance, Jiang charges forward and strikes the toad directly on the head. His sword bounces off again with a loud clang. He realizes he still cannot break its defense. The toad then activates mutated toad skin, significantly increasing its defense. At the same time, a system notification flashes red. It warns that because the target's level exceeds the user's level, the modification effect has expired. The toad's tongue unties itself and reverts back to giant tongue snare. Jiang realizes this is the drawback of using modify on enemies stronger than him. The skill's duration is drastically reduced. The giant tongue shoots straight at him again. Jiang decides he has to make a massive gamble. He pulls out a weapon called the Demon Fall Saber and activates his modify skill. A system screen confirms that the Demon Fall Saber has been modified into the Demon King Saber. The weapon erupts with a massive aura. The Demon Fall Saber transforms into a fleshy weapon with a giant glowing eyeball. A system screen identifies it as the Demon King Sword. Its grade and attributes are unknown. The description warns that it hosts 1/10 of the consciousness of the 7th Demon King, Blood Spirit Shura, and carries an extremely uncontrollable risk. Jiang struggles to hold the heavy sword. He knows he needs to finish the Toad King quickly. He swings the weapon and unleashes a massive blast of red energy that completely destroys the boss in a single hit. Jiang falls to his knees, completely drained of stamina. He notices red energy creeping up his arm and realizes the sword is starting to erode his body. He tries to activate his modify skill to change the sword's name back, but he has no stamina left to trigger it. A voice speaks from the sword, mocking him for borrowing its power. The Demon King threatens to wipe out his civilization and enslave his entire race using just 1/10 of its power. Jiang says he figured this might happen and raises his free hand and summons a regular steel sword. He states that this is not his first time modifying a Demon King blade. He drives the steel sword directly into the giant eyeball of the Demon King sword. The Demon King screams in anger, cursing Jiang and vowing to return one day to tear his soul apart before the dark energy explodes and fades away. Jiang sits on the ground, panting. He notes that piercing the consciousness anchored in the blade stopped the erosion. He remembers a similar accident from his previous life, when he accidentally summoned a piece of the 9th Demon King. That incident was much worse and required a level 80 general to step in. However, that past accident taught him how to handle this anomaly by attacking the consciousness inside the weapon. He wonders if these Demon Kings come from a world even more terrifying than the Demon Rifts. After resting and recovering his stamina, Jiang stands up to collect his loot. He activates his modify skill and renames the Demon King blade to the Demon Meteor Blade. The terrifying weapon turns back into a normal-looking sword with a red blade. He walks over to the remains of the Miasma Toad King. He finds a glowing purple magic crystal and smiles, noting that a level 20 boss crystal will sell for at least 100,000 on the market. He then activates his spatial ring, absorbing the Toad King's corpse and all the other monster corpses he killed earlier in the valley. He plans to skip the official market and sell these top-grade materials in the black market to squeeze out more profit. Jiang suddenly wonders why he hasn't leveled up yet from killing the boss. A system message then appears, confirming that both the Miasma Toad King and an unknown entity were slain, granting him a large experience reward. Jiang looks at his system screen and sees his level jump from 18 to 20. He realizes the unknown entity was the Demon Eyeball. He considers summoning and killing it repeatedly to reach level 100, but decides the risk of accidentally destroying the city is too high. Reaching level 20 grants him new innate skills. He receives the artisan skill Dismantle, which breaks down low-level items for materials with a chance for critical multipliers. He also gets the farmer skill Pest Immunity. Jiang smiles, planning to use his modify skill to change pest immunity into damage immunity. He decides it is time to head back and jumps through the trees. He spots Lu Yuan's lackey hiding in the branches. The lackey, a level 17 B-rank assassin named Lu Tao, jumps out and attacks. He calls Jiang trash and activates a skill called Quick Step to boost his agility by 30%. Jiang easily blocks the dagger strike with a basic sword and calls the attack boring. He knocks Lu Tao backward into the dirt. Lu Tao is shocked by Jiang's speed and his expensive storage ring. He realizes that combat sense and training matter more than just having a combat class, but hopes his master can beat Jiang. A leaf suddenly shoots toward Jiang's face. Jiang catches it between his fingers. Lu Yuan dashes out of the shadows and attacks. Jiang blocks the strike with a large sword. They push each other back and complement each other's weapons. Lu Yuan states he wants to see if Jiang really deserves the #1 freshman ranking. Jiang asks if he wants to make a wager where the loser hands over their weapon. Lu Yuan agrees and activates his Gale Stride skill, boosting his agility by 80%. He charges forward, surrounded by purple wind. Jiang calmly stated that he will gladly take the saber to add to his savings. Lu Yuan attacks Jiang Yan with incredible speed. He tells Jiang that his S-rank class guarantees he is faster than anyone else and that speed is everything to him. Lu Yuan launches a rapid flurry of slashes from all directions. Jiang Yan stands his ground and struggles to block the heavy attacks with his large sword. Jiang sweats and thinks to himself that Lu Yuan is disgustingly fast, exactly as expected from an S-rank combat class. Nearby, the lackey Lu Tao clutches his bleeding shoulder and excitedly cheers for his boss, yelling at Lu Yuan to finish Jiang off. Lu Yuan continues his relentless assault. He thinks that Jiang is simply too slow and no match for him at all, stating that an F rank is still just an F rank. Lu Yuan prepares one final, powerful attack and declares that this strike ends everything. He dashes right past Jiang Yan with a massive purple slash. Lu Yuan holds a bloody dagger pointed at Jiang's back and says that he got him. Lu Yuan confidently declares that the match is decided. Jiang Yan gripping his large sword while bleeding from the fast attack. Lu Yuan realizes that Jiang Yan never intended to compete with him in speed. He smiles and says this must be the strength of the city's #1 freshman, adding that Jiang is starting to get interesting. Jiang Yan swings his sword in a massive circular slash. Lu Yuan leaps backward to dodge the deadly strike. He states that he can trade blows and cut off the tail to survive, abandoning his weapon to escape. Jiang Yan stops his swing and looks at the broken piece of Lu Yuan's dagger caught on his own blade. He smiles and tells Lu Yuan it was not a bad move to ditch his weapon, praising his real combat experience. Jiang Yan tosses the broken dagger piece away and asks how Lu Yuan plans to keep fighting now that he is unarmed. In response, Lu Yuan holds out his hand, and a new dagger with a glowing blue hilt appears from his storage ring. He explains that he really likes this specific dagger model, so he usually keeps 3 of them in his ring. Jiang Yan watches him and remembers that Lu Yuan is the eldest young master of the wealthy Lu family. He knows a B-rank weapon is expensive, but it means nothing to someone that rich. Jiang takes out his sword and thinks that beating a golden boy like him will be very satisfying. Lu Yuan tells Jiang Yan that he is the first fellow freshman to see this skill, noting that he originally thought the Sword Saint would be the first to witness it. A system screen appears, showing Lu Yuan's innate skill, Gale Rending Slash. The skill delivers a powerful wind strike, dealing 150% attack damage, and ignores 30% of the target's physical defense. Lu Yuan lunges forward with incredible speed and unleashes a massive, bright purple energy slash directly at Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan quickly leaps backward through the forest, dodging the glowing blade as it slices through the trees. While falling back, Jiang Yan realizes this is the true power of a combat class. He notes that every innate skill gives a huge boost in battle, and since Lu Yuan is an S-rank combat class, his strength is downright broken. However, Jiang Yan closely analyzes the situation. He notices that Lu Yuan's wind speed is clearly higher than his own, making it a bad idea to trade blows up close. He also deduces that throwing out such a massive wind blade must be putting a huge drain on Lu Yuan's stamina. Jiang Yan decides that his win condition is to bide his time and wait for the perfect moment to deliver a one-hit kill. He reminds himself that he cannot afford to use his real innate skill during this fight. Following his plan, Jiang Yan dashes away into the mist and hides on a thick branch high up in a giant tree. Lu Yuan looks up, spots Jiang Yan in the branches, and calmly states that going into hiding is a wise choice. Lu Yuan then crosses his arms in front of his chest, gathering a blinding amount of bright purple energy. He asks Jiang Yan where exactly he plans to hide now that he has lost his cover. With a swift motion, Lu Yuan slash that completely obliterates the massive tree. The brilliant purple blast tears through the forest, leaving Lu Yuan standing alone in the clearing as the debris falls around him. Lu Yuan wondered where Jiang Yan went. Suddenly, he spots a shadow shifting nearby. Lu Yuan shouts that he sees him and immediately swings his glowing purple dagger at the shadow. His attack easily slices through the object, but his eyes widen in shock when he realizes it is only a broken tree stump. At that exact moment, Jiang Yan lunges out from the opposite side with his sword sword. Lu Yuan realizes Jiang Yan used a feint to trick him, distracting him with the shadow while attacking from the blind spot. Lu Yuan is amazed that an F-rank fighter forced him into this defensive position. He notes that Jiang Yan perfectly used the terrain and the surrounding plants to his advantage. Lu Yuan leaps backward to dodge the strike. He admits to himself that if Jiang Yan were an S rank, his strength would be unimaginable. However, Lu Yuan confidently states that no matter how strong Jiang Yan is, he is still just an F-rank crafter. Lu Yuan proudly declares that he is a true S-rank combat class. A bright purple energy shield suddenly forms around Lu Yuan's body to protect him. He tells Jiang Yan that there is no way he can lose this fight. Jiang Yan looks at the barrier and notes that Lu Yuan is fighting desperately by using another innate defensive skill. Jiang Yan states that his large sword is not just for show. Jiang Yan swings his weapon with incredible force and unleashes a massive blast of blue energy directly at Lu Yuan. The powerful strike hits the barrier and completely shatters the purple shield into pieces. As Lu Yuan is thrown backward by the impact, Jiang Yan tells him that even with a shield, he cannot stand up to this kind of firepower. The powerful blue energy blast strikes the trees and shatters them into pieces. Jiang Yan walks forward holding his large sword. He thinks to himself and wonders if he should press the attack. He decides not to, realizing this has not reached the point of a fight to the death. He also remembers his previous life. He recalls that Lu Yuan is not a bad person, because in the past, Lu Yuan led the Lu family to resist a monster invasion and died bravely. In the dust, Lu Yuan sits on the ground coughing. He grips his dagger and thinks he has not lost yet. He plans to hit Jiang Yan point blank with a wind blade when he comes closer. He wants to leave Jiang Yan badly wounded, even if it takes the last of his strength. Lu Yuan sweats and is shocked that an F-rank fighter pushed him this far. He realizes an F-rank class can grow strong too, but he firmly believes his potential as an S-rank will always be higher. Jiang Yan walks through the mist toward him. Lu Yuan grips his glowing dagger tightly, nervous, and thinks that his opponent is coming. Suddenly, Jiang Yan reaches out an open hand. Lu Yuan calmly smiles and says it looks like they ended in a draw and tells him that he really is strong. Lu Yuan looks up in confusion and asks Jiang Yan what he means by that. Jiang Yan calmly explains that Lu Yuan is a worthy opponent whom he can acknowledge. He suggests they call this round a draw with no winner and no loser. Lu Yuan realizes that Jiang Yan is recognizing his strength and is not looking down on him at all. Lu Yuan closes his eyes and smiles. He thinks to himself that he understands now. He knows he is strong, but so is Jiang Yan. He realizes there is always a higher sky and always someone stronger. He silently thanks Jiang Yan for teaching him this lesson. Lu Yuan reaches up and firmly grasps Jiang Yan's hand. He tells Jiang Yan that he acknowledges him as a true powerhouse and someone worthy to stand as his rival. Lu Yuan holds the handshake and makes a promise. He vows to defeat Jiang Yan fair and square next time in the freshman top 100 tournament. Jiang Yan smiles confidently back at him. He tells Lu Yuan that he had better push himself even harder. Jiang Yan warns him that if he does not, he will lose the right to be his opponent. Lu Tao supports Lu Yuan as they walk away. Lu Tao points back and yells at Jiang Yan. He calls Jiang Yan a little punk and asks how he dares to leave Lu Yuan banged up. Lu Yuan glares at his lackey and tells him to watch his mouth. Lu Yuan commands Lu Tao to show Jiang Yan the same respect he shows him from now on. Lu Tao looks shocked and quickly says, "Yes, sir." As they walk into the forest, Lu Yuan smiles over his shoulder. He thinks to himself that next time, he will go all out and beat Jiang Yan for sure. Jiang Yan watches them leave with his hands in his pockets. He smiles confidently and thinks that if Lu Yuan really went all out, he would have lost the moment he shouted the name of his first skill. Jiang Yan holds up his hand, and glowing digital pixels appear over his palm. He notes that the skill Gale-Rending Slash has many ways he can tweak it. Jiang Yan then scratches the back of his head and looks disappointed. He sighs and thinks it is a shame he got no real gains after a big fight. Since they called it a draw, he even gave the dagger back. He feels like he worked for nothing. Suddenly, Jiang Yan spots a bright green light glowing in the dark forest. He asks himself what it is. He realizes it must have been from earlier. He remembers the moment Lu Yuan used his massive purple slash to destroy the giant tree. He remembers that Lu Yuan's massive purple slash made something invisible show itself. He looks into the distance and sees a special glowing green poison mist. He decides to go take a look, hoping he might run into another boss-tier monster. He snaps his fingers and activates his modification skill. A system screen shows him changing his damage immunity skill into poison immunity. The system confirms he now has level 1 poison immunity. This skill grants him immunity to D-rank toxins and below for 20 minutes. Jiang Yan notes that with this new skill, he can save his expensive antidote pills for now. He walks forward toward the bright green light, wondering what exactly is hiding inside the strange poisonous fog. He reaches the edge of a glowing green lake, and a jagged pillar stands in the center of the water. Jiang Yan observes that the green mist is spreading out from the center of the lake. He stands at the shore and notes that the entire lake is toxic. He looks at the water and wonders if a legendary poison dragon could be living here. Deciding to find out the truth, he jumps straight into the toxic water with a large splash. Suddenly, a massive dark shadow with a glowing red eye slowly approaches him from the depths below. The giant shadow quickly reveals itself to be a terrifying monster with a gaping mouth full of razor-sharp teeth, lunging upward to attack him. A system screen identifies the monster as a level 18 ice-armored crocodile. Jiang Yan swiftly dodges its massive bite underwater. He notes that there is a big guy in the water. The giant crocodile lunges again, but Jiang swims backward and thinks that it will not eat him that easily. He summons his large glowing blue sword in the water. He decides that since the monster came to him, he will begrudgingly accept its materials. Jiang swings his sword, and a system notification confirms an armor penetration effect is triggered. The blue blade slices cleanly through the giant crocodile, killing it instantly. Jiang looks at the massive sinking body. He realizes the monster is too huge to fit inside his storage ring. However, he decides to try out his new dismantle skill. A system screen shows that the level 1 dismantle skill can break down items to obtain materials, with a 10% chance to double the rewards. Jiang holds out his hand and activates the skill. The entire crocodile corpse instantly shatters into thousands of blue data cubes, creating a bright flash of light in the water. System screens appear showing the materials he obtained, which include crocodile bones, crocodile meat, and crocodile hide. Jiang notes that the ice-resistant hide is pretty good and decides to keep it. Jiang Yan stores the new materials using his spatial ring. He notices a bright green light glowing from the depths below. He realizes he swam right next to the source of the strange poison mist. He decides to swim further down to see what is actually hiding down there. He dives deeper into a massive underwater cavern filled with intense green light. He looks around and notes that the surrounding terrain has been completely warped by the powerful toxins. He hides behind a large crystal rock and wonders if his luck is really that good. He peeks around the edge of the rock, and his eyes widen in shock. In the center of the cavern, a massive green dragon is sleeping peacefully inside a nest. A system screen pops up, identifying the beast as a level 43 female poison dragon currently in its growth phase. Jiang Yan is amazed and confirms that it really is a legendary poison dragon. He notes that the monster is still in its growth phase, but has already reached level 43 and is laying eggs, which is exactly what he expects from a legendary high-tier monster. He estimates that once the dragon matures, it will easily reach at least level 70. He stares at 2 glowing green dragon eggs resting in the nest. He realizes that if he uses his universal grafting skill on them, he can push the egg's upper limit even higher. He spots human skeletons and broken weapons scattered around the dragon's nest. He decides he will find a chance to steal the dragon eggs, considering it a way to avenge all the humans who died in the cavern. Jiang Yan is hiding behind the crystal underwater when he suddenly hears a loud rumbling sound. He looks up in shock and sweats, wondering what the noise could be. A poison dragon flies down through the water into the cavern. The dragon is carrying a dead monster in its sharp claws. Jiang Yan quickly hides back behind the rock. He realizes that, of course, there is a male dragon as well. The male dragon lands next to the female in the glowing green nest. Jiang Yan decides that the cavern is not safe. He admits he cannot beat them yet, and plans to come back when he is stronger. Jiang Yan breaks the surface of the glowing green lake and gasps for air. He steps onto the rocky shore and notes that his goal is clearer than ever. He smiles with determination and vows to get stronger so he can claim the dragon eggs. He imagines a future where he is flying through the sky while riding the massive poison dragon. He confidently thinks that when that happens, he will definitely become Nanyang City's top scorer. Jiang Yan wrings the toxic water out of his wet shirt and walks away from the lake. He decides it is time to leave and sell his materials at the black market to cash out. In the Nanyang City underground black market, Jiang Yan walks through the busy market alleyway filled with people and merchant stalls. He recalls a rumor that a powerful level 60 grandmaster is in charge of this place. He also notes that people say this grandmaster comes from an extraordinary background. He notes that the authorities turn a blind eye to this place as long as nothing huge happens. This makes trading easier and hides many sins. He stops in front of a brightly lit store with golden doors. He remembers from his past life that this shop is the most reliable place in the black market. Inside, the shop owner, a woman named Qin Yo. 2 men stand in front of her with a large sack. One man begs her to raise the price a little, explaining that it was hard for them to get this haul. Qin Yu remains calm and tells them she is already offering the highest price on the entire street. She tells them to leave if they do not want to sell. Jiang Yan walks into the shop with his hands in his pockets. Qin Yu looks at him and asks if a high school kid has something to sell. The 2 men turn and look at Jiang Yan. One man mocks his simple clothes and asks what kind of goods he could possibly have. The man points his finger right in Jiang Yan's face and tells him to get lost and stop wasting the boss's time. Jiang Yan completely ignores the angry man. He lifts his hand and shows a glowing blue ring on his finger. He says that he really does not have anything special. The two men start sweating and look at the ring in absolute shock. They realize it is an expensive storage ring and wonder how a kid can afford it. Jiang Yan holds his hand out as the ring glows brightly. Jiang Yan tells them that this is about all he has. He activates his storage ring and dumps a massive pile of monster parts onto the floor. The pile includes poison wing lizard ribs and hides, carnivorous fiendgrass roots and leaves, miasma corroded oak, venom sacs, and tongues, as well as the ice-armored crocodile hide. The two men stare at the massive loot with their mouths wide open in absolute shock. The shop owner, Qin Yu, is also surprised. She looks at the pile and thinks to herself that he even has ice-armored crocodile hide. She wonders if he went all the way to the deepest parts of Poison Dragon Valley. Jiang Yan then remembers something else, and says there is also one more thing. He holds out his hand and pulls out the glowing purple magic crystal. The two men scream in disbelief, shocked that he actually brought out a boss-tier magic crystal. They sweat and wonder who this kid really is. Jiang Yan calmly looks at the shop owner and asks her to tally everything up and tell him how much it is worth. He asks her to hurry, stating that he would not want to hold up the two men from their big business with her. The two men stand frozen and embarrassed as Jiang Yan casually holds the glowing crystal between them. Jiang Yan and Boss Qin sit across from each other at a table inside a luxurious VIP room. A butler stands nearby and announces that the payment for all the monster materials is 78,500. Boss Qin sits elegantly on the sofa and adds that the magic crystal alone is worth 150,000. This brings the total payment to 238,500. She slides a golden VIP card across the table toward Jiang Yan and tells him that all the money is on this card. Jiang Yan reaches out to take the card. He tells her that since she is straightforward, he will not be polite. As he takes the card, Boss Qin smiles and smokes her pipe. She explains that the gold card means he is now a VIP customer of her Jinyu Pavilion. She promises that if he brings any magic crystals in the future, she will offer him a 10% premium when buying them. Jiang Yan stands up and holds the card. He thanks Boss Qin for her kindness and walks out of the room. As he leaves, Boss Qin watches him quietly from behind. Jiang Yan thinks to himself that Boss Qin is very fair, which is why he chose to trade with her. He also realizes that she gave him the VIP card and special treatment because she clearly values his potential. Jiang Yan leaves the shop and walks down the stairs into the busy market. One of the men points at him. Jiang Yan realizes he is being followed. He thinks to himself that there is really no hiding anything from these people. He notes that no matter how discreet he tried to be, someone still caught on. The two men secretly follow close behind him. One man asks his partner if he is sure the kid is holding a huge sum of money. The second man replies that he is completely sure because he saw Boss Qin hand Jiang Yan a gold card with his own eyes. Jiang Yan purposely walks away from the crowd and heads down an empty staircase. He thinks to himself that his pursuers really cannot wait to attack. He decides to find a quiet place to play with them. He stops and stands alone in a deserted alley. He hears footsteps approaching in the dark. Jiang Yan smiles slightly and thinks that they finally could not hold back anymore. The two men from the shop step out of the shadows and block his path. One of the men demands that Jiang Yan hand over the gold card, promising to spare his life if he cooperates. Jiang Yan stands completely calm and asks what will happen if he says no. The two men stand in the alley and threaten Jiang Yan. One of them tells him that if he says no, they will make sure he vanishes without a trace. Jiang Yan turns his head slightly and asks if it is just the two of them. The men confidently reply that they are both level 23 combat classes, adding that dealing with a kid like him is child's play. System screens appear, identifying their classes as a thief and a swordsman. Jiang Yan sighs, closes his eyes, and complains that their levels are so low. The two men become furious. One man draws a knife, asking how Jiang Yan dares to look down on them. The other man yells that they should teach him a lesson. Jiang Yan stands completely calm and tells them to cut the crap and attack. The thief charges forward first. He swings a glowing green dagger and yells at Jiang Yan to take his attack. A system screen shows the thief activating his innate skill, Backstab, which increases his attack speed and critical rate. Right behind him, the swordsman attacks with a sword glowing with purple energy. Another system screen shows the swordsman using his innate skill, Heavy Strike, to deal heavy damage. As the two men rush toward him with their glowing weapons, Jiang Yan does not move from his spot. He simply raises his hand and calmly snaps his fingers. Jiang Yan tells the two men that he will not hold back either. He activates his Modify skill. A system screen shows that he changed the thief's innate skill from Backstab to Backslap. Suddenly, the thief's arm swings up and forcefully slaps his own face. Blood flies into the air as the thief stumbles, confused about what is happening to his body. The swordsman yells out to his brother in shock. At that moment, another system screen appears, showing that his Heavy Strike skill has been modified into Heavy Stroke. The The swordsman immediately grabs his face and spits out blood. He falls heavily to his knees, coughing up a massive pool of blood onto the pavement. He looks up weakly and asks Jiang Yan what he did to them. Both men collapse onto the ground. The thief begs for mercy and says that they yield. Jiang Yan slowly walks toward the defeated men. His face is hidden in the shadows as he questions if they really think they can just yield. He summons his massive glowing blue sword in his hand and asks if they thought this was a game. With a swift motion, Jiang Yan swings his giant sword and strikes them both, stating that he only accepts dead bodies. Blood splatters across the alley wall. A system message appears confirming that the thief and swordsman have been slain, and Jiang Yan gains their experience points. Jiang Yan reads a piece of paper and realizes that the boss of the black market has put a bounty on his head. Seeing that the reward is a whole million, he jokes that he is tempted to turn himself in. He drops the paper, stating that he has more important things to do right now. He holds up a plain dark jacket. A system screen identifies the item as a basic Nightwalker coat with low defense. Jiang Yan smirks and calls the jacket a bit too ordinary. He activates his modify skill and changes the name of the item. The system screen updates, showing that the jacket has transformed into a high-tier nightmare coat. Its defense increases massively, and it gains a powerful new effect that conceals the user's aura and blocks all detection skills. Jiang Yan puts on the newly modified item, which has turned into a stylish, long tan trench coat. He looks down at his new outfit and says this is much better. He turns around to reveal a glowing cyan emblem on the back of the coat, calling it a perfect fit. He decides it is time to head out. He walks forward, declaring that his next stop is the underground arena. Jiang Yan thinks to himself that he did not expect to be gone for 3 whole days. He opens the door to his apartment and walks inside. His sister is sitting at a desk in the room. She turns her head toward the door and welcomes him back. Jiang Yan walks over to her and hands her a small box, stating that he bought her a little something. She opens the box, and a bright light shines from inside. She looks surprised and realizes it is a spatial ring. She tells him that the item is way too expensive. Jiang Yan smiles warmly at her. He replies that the money means nothing compared to his sister's safety. She looks up at him and asks where he got the money to buy it. Jiang Yan places his hands gently on her shoulders and explains that he has been working at the underground arena. His sister immediately looks shocked and worried. She tells him that the underground arena is a super dangerous place. Jiang Yan smiles calmly and pats her on the head to reassure her. He tells her not to worry because he is stronger than she thinks. He explains that he needs to make sure she has the best gear for her upcoming exams. His sister explains that she is an auxiliary class and has only reached level 5. Jiang Yan smiles confidently and adjusts his coat collar. He tells her to leave it to her brother to figure that out. Jiang Yan looks forward with a determined smile. He thinks back to his previous life. He remembers that because he was in a crafting class, nobody was willing to form a party with him. He imagines groups of powerful frontline fighters who completely ignored him. He notes that people with auxiliary classes were treated just as badly, if not worse. Jiang Yan raises his hand and states that in this life, he has the modify skill. His face falls into shadow as he asks, so what if they are just auxiliary and crafting classes? Jiang Yan stands on a high dark rooftop, overlooking the glowing blue city and the massive demon rift in the distance. He vows that with him here, he will make sure his sister stands at the very top. The wind blows his long coat as he looks out over the city. He declares that he must do this before the National Freshman Tournament begins. The annual National Freshman Tournament is officially starting. Thousands of students in school uniforms stand in neat rows across the large green field. A man in a suit stands on a stage. He is the principal of Nanrong No, I Middle School Aoyang Lai. He raises his fist high and tells the students that now is the time to change their destiny. He shouts for them to reach for higher city ranks. He tells the crowd that many geniuses will be born today and encourages them to show their power to the world. The students stand together, and some look nervous about the competition. The tournament happens in many big cities at the same time. Winners will receive massive resources and rare items from the government. The tournament is used to find the next protectors of humanity against the Demon Rift. The top students will also be recruited into the most powerful guilds. Crafting classes are responsible for logistics and support. Jiang Yan thinks that today is finally the day. He looks at the long rows of students and notes that the National Freshman Tournament is more than just a competition. He explains that it is a selection process used to find the strongest individuals. He knows that the top performers will receive massive resources. On the stage, the principal begins to speak. He congratulates all the students for graduating and successfully awakening their classes. He explains that the tournament is held every year to test their current limits. He tells the crowd that he hopes they all perform their best. He shouts for them to bring glory to their schools. The students in the crowd become excited and start talking to each other. Some students show off their weapons and glowing energy. Jiang Yan watches the crowd and remembers his past. He thinks about how he was just a spectator in his previous life, but this time he will be the main character. He notices that there are many hidden geniuses among the students. He realizes he will face many strong opponents, but remains determined to take the top spot. The teacher stands on the field holding a clipboard. He announces to the students that only 4 people are exempt from the upcoming test. He looks at Jiang Yan and explains that even though Jiang Yan has already surpassed level 15, he must still participate in the preliminary school test. The teacher states this is because Jiang Yan is an F rank and does not have a combat class. The surrounding students begin to whisper. They point out that he is being treated like the weakest class despite his high level. Some students find the situation pitiful. Yang Hongwei smirks and thinks to himself that this is the treatment F-rank trash deserves. The teacher places a hand on Jiang Yan's shoulder. He tells Jiang Yan not to be discouraged because he knows Jiang Yan is excellent. He explains that the school made this decision and he has no power to change it. Jiang Yan tells the teacher he understands. He agrees to participate in the preliminary test. Yang Hongwei glares at Jiang Yan and wonders how he can stay so relaxed. He assumes that because everyone knows Jiang Yan is formidable, the other students will target him together to knock him out early. An official blows a loud whistle. A message announces that the preliminary school test is officially starting. This test is an internal screening used before the college entrance exams. It randomly selects 10 awakened students to fight in a free-for-all battle. Only the final winner is allowed to participate in the college entrance examination. The elimination rate is 90%, making it a very cruel system. On the field, a girl named Zhang Shui stands over a defeated student while pointing her staff at him. An announcer shouts that Zhang Shui from Class 9 has won for Group 8. The vice principal of No. 1 Middle School, Zhu Kang, watches the students from a balcony. He says it has been a month since the awakening, yet these students cannot even reach level 15. He believes there is no future for them. He notes that most of them are D rank or E rank, and many are stuck with crafting classes. Ouyang Li says that this year is actually different. He asks the vice principal if he remembers Jiang Yan. He reminds him that Jiang Yan held first place in both academics and martial arts for 3 consecutive years. Zhu Kang sighs and looks down. He says he definitely remembers and had high hopes for the boy. However, he is disappointed because Jiang Yan awakened an F-rank class. Zhu Kang looks at Ouyang Li, whom he calls Old Li, and asks if he knows what F-rank truly means. Zhu Kang explains that originally, E-rank was the lowest possible class. As the number of awakened people increased, very weak crafting classes appeared. These were labeled as trash classes. Zhu Kang explains that the officials thought the word trash was too harsh, so they renamed it to F-rank. He states that even if Jiang Yan is the top student in academics and combat, the massive power gap between classes makes it impossible for him to win. Old Li listens quietly and then mentions that Lord Huo Yuanwu was also an F-rank class. Old Li tells Zhu Kang that Lord Huo Yuanwu was also an F-rank class, but is now a level 70 venerable. He warns the vice principal not to underestimate a hardworking child like Jiang Yan. An official blows a whistle and calls for Group 17 to get into position. He calls out the names Jiang Yan, Ma Feng, and He Yuqing. 9 students holding spears and swords wait in the arena. Jiang Yan walks onto the field alone. He smiles and thinks that it is finally his turn. He remembers his promise to take his sister out for a good meal. He thinks to himself that he has no time to waste here. The other students in the arena recognize him. They acknowledge that he was the top-ranked student for 3 years. They notice that his level is 20, which is higher than theirs. However, they see he is a dual F-rank crafter and assume he might not be that strong. One student suggests that all 9 of them should join forces to take Jiang Yan down first. They plan to decide the winner among themselves after he is gone. Jiang Yan hears their plan and smirks. He tells them that their plan is perfect because he is in a hurry as well. He challenges all 9 of them to come at him together. The students become angry and shout for the group to take him down. They remind each other that they are all combat classes like warriors, assassins, spearmen, and archers. The group of 9 students charge toward Jiang Yan at the same time. The 9 students charge toward Jiang Yan all at once. One student yells that they will show this F-rank class that class gaps cannot be fixed with effort. On the balcony, Vice Principal Zhu Kang and Old Li watch the field. Zhu Kang says the fight is starting, and Old Li tells him to just watch. Jiang Yan reaches out his hand, and glowing blue mana cubes appear around his fingers. He thinks to himself that the opponents have very poor weapons. He explains that the materials he found in Poison Dragon Valley allowed him to buy a high-quality sword. Jiang Yan pulls a massive, glowing blue blade out of his storage ring. Zhu Kang is shocked to see the storage ring. He realizes the sword is an A-rank weapon, and says it must have been made by a craftsman above level 50. Jiang Yan moves with incredible speed, leaving blue trails behind him. He easily dodges a flying arrow and weaves through the group of students. In the audience, the students are stunned by his fast footwork. They ask how high his agility attribute is and wonder if he is really just an F-rank crafter. Jiang Yan stops moving and rests his large sword on the ground. He calmly tells the 9 students that they have all lost. The students look at him in confusion. One student yells that Jiang Yan has high agility, but they have not been injured at all. He claims that Jiang Yan's agility is just prominent and doesn't believe they have been defeated. Jiang Yan looks at the students and smirks, asking if that is really what they think. Suddenly, blue energy slashes flicker across the air. In an instant, the collars and shirts of all 9 students are sliced open. The students look at their torn clothes in complete shock and ask how this is possible. They realize that their uniforms were cut without them even feeling a thing. One student trembles and notes that if Jiang Yan had wanted to kill them, they would all be dead already. Jiang Yan stands calmly with his glowing blue sword. The students admit that they are absolutely no match for him. One by one, the students raise their hands in the air. They shout that they have lost and officially surrender the match. A loud announcement echoes through the stadium, declaring Jiang Yan from Class 1 the winner of Group 17. Jiang Yan walks away from the arena with his hands in his pockets. He thinks to himself that since he won the preliminary test, the formal college entrance examination will begin in 3 days. He is pleased because he can now go back and treat his sister to a good meal as promised. As he walks, he smiles to himself. He reveals that he used this public fight as an opportunity to give his Qinggong sword a reasonable justification. He concludes that by showing the weapon now, no one will come looking for trouble or question how he obtained such a powerful blade. Vice Principal Zhu Chang watches Jiang Yan on the field and asks how the boy can be so formidable. Zhu Kang notes that since Jiang Yan obtained supplies from Poison Dragon Valley, his real strength must be much higher than what he just showed during the fight. Old Lai looks at the vice principal and asks if even Lord Huo Yuanwu was this impressive when he was young. Zhu Kang closes his eyes and admits that it is true. They both watch as Jiang Yan walks away across the large green field. Old Lai mentions that their school, Nanrong No, one middle school, has never produced a city top scorer. He wonders if this is the year that the title will finally fall upon an F-rank student. Jiang Yan walks toward the exit of the stadium with his hands in his pockets.
A student named Zhang Daxiao from Class 24 finishes his match with a powerful punch. An announcement declares him the winner of Group 68. On the stadium floor, many defeated students lie on the ground while the winners stand. The announcer says the preliminary school test is now over and a total of 68 people have advanced. In the preliminary test winners' rest area, it is a large, bright building with many tables and windows. Jiang Yan sits at a wooden table and drinks from a cup. He looks around the room at the other students and begins to think about the numbers. He notes that Nanrong No. 1 Middle School has over 1,000 students in a single grade. Jiang Yan calculates that since there were 68 groups, there were 680 participants in the preliminary test. He thinks to himself that normally only 130 people from his school qualify to take the college entrance examination. He looks at the crowd of winners in the rest area. He concludes that by adding the 68 people who just advanced, there are now about 200 people in his graduating class who are eligible to take the college entrance examination. Jiang Yan looks at a map of Nanrong City which shows 19 high schools. He calculates that there are around 10,000 students participating in this round of the college entrance examination. Jiang Yan thinks to himself that winning first place against such a large army of students is obviously extremely difficult. While he is sitting at a table in the rest area, a man in a brown suit walks up and sits next to him. Jiang Yan recognizes the man as the school principal. The principal looks at Jiang Yan and mentions that he was the top student in both academics and combat for 3 years. He says he has personally handed Jiang Yan awards several times. He tells the boy that he does not need to be so surprised to see him. Jiang Yan looks at the man and acknowledges that he is not just the principal, but also one of the 12 guardian deities of Nanrong City. He tells the man that it is normal for a student to be surprised when meeting someone so important. The principal laughs and pats Jiang Yan on the shoulder. He tells Jiang Yan that he really knows how to talk and that he likes the flattery. However, the principal's expression then turns serious. He tells Jiang Yan that he would be even happier if the boy could bring back a top scorer title for No. 1 middle school. Jiang Yan looks at him with wide eyes in complete surprise. Jiang Yan points out that there are 3 S-rank and 6 A-rank combat students in the graduating class. He asks the principal if he is really optimistic about an F-rank student like him. The principal calmly asks why the F-rank matters. He reveals that even though he is one of the 12 guardian deities, he is also just a C-rank. The principal stands up and tells Jiang Yan that it is always the person who is strong, not the class. He declares that humanity's strongest ability is the heart that dares to draw its sword against any powerhouse. Jiang Yan looks at the principal in total shock. He thinks to himself that this man is very different from other powerful figures. He reflects on his past life and realizes he did not interact with the principal much, but it seems the man reached his position without ever using a skill like Modify. Jiang Yan smiles and thanks the principal for his guidance. He vows to give his all to bring a top scorer title back to the school. The principal smiles widely and holds out his fist. He calls it a promise between men and asks to bump fists. They hit their fists together to seal the deal. Other students nearby watch the two and look very confused. They wonder why the principal and his student are getting fired up for no reason. One student thinks the principal is acting way too childish. Another student notes that the school has not produced a city top scorer in 50 years. Later that night, Jianyan takes his sister to a very tall and luxurious restaurant covered in lights. He thinks about how they have always lived on a tight budget since their parents passed away. He decided to indulge tonight because the official college entrance exam starts tomorrow. Jianyan and his sister walk down a street at night toward a luxury building. His sister stops and looks at him with a worried face. She asks if they are really going to eat at such a fancy place. She suggests that they should just turn around and go back home. Jianyan looks at the building and tells her that they have arrived. They stand in front of a restaurant called Elrose Premium Wagyu Grilled Meat. His sister gets even more nervous. She tells him that she has seen this restaurant online and knows it is very expensive. She also points out that the place is very popular and usually requires a reservation to get inside. Jianyan smiles and pulls out his phone. He shows her a reservation screen on his mobile device. He tells her that he did his research and booked the seats a long time ago. He then tells her it is time to go in. They walk toward the entrance of the restaurant together. His sister watches him and thinks to herself. She decides not to spoil his mood since he put so much thought into the evening. She remembers that even though the restaurant is pricey, her brother recently gave her money. She calculates that if she is careful with spending over the next few months, they will have enough for living expenses. She looks at her brother and thinks that because he has his big exam tomorrow, he deserves to enjoy himself tonight. They enter a large dining room with fancy tables and a piano player. A waitress in a uniform approaches them. She welcomes them and asks if they want to order individual items or recommended set meal. Jiang Yan tells her to bring them set meal C. He explains that he knows those are the restaurant's signature dishes. The waitress bows and tells Jiang Yan to please wait a moment. As she walks away, she thinks to herself that while the siblings look ordinary, they are actually big spenders. His sister looks across the table with a shocked expression. She asks her brother if the set meal C he ordered is truly the most expensive one that costs 2,980. Jiang Yan drinks from his cup and calmly confirms that it is. He tells his sister that if she wants anything else, she should feel free to order more of her favorites. The sister becomes extremely nervous. She thinks about how 2,980 is worth 10 months of living expenses for their family. She starts to worry if her brother did something illegal to get this much money. Suddenly, a loud and angry voice interrupts the quiet room. A student named Wang Zhou from high school number 7 shouts at the staff. He is a C-rank combat class awakened. He screams that he has the college entrance exam tomorrow and demands a table even though he does not have a reservation. The waitress politely apologizes and explains that the restaurant is for reservations only. Wang Zhou points his finger at her and threatens to smash the entire place if she does not get a table for him and his friends. Jiang Yan's sister looks over and tells her brother that the waitress who took their order is being harassed by a thug. He asks out loud if all the seniors at high school number 7 are this kind of trash. Wang Zhou hears him and becomes furious. He turns toward Jiang Yan's table and yells, asking what he said. He challenges Jiang Yan to say it again if he has the guts. Wang Zhou walks over to Jiang Yan's table and looks down at him. He recognizes the boy and laughs loudly. He calls him the famous F-rank Jiang Yan from high school number 1. Wang Zhou tells him that there is almost no F-rank trash left in the entire city of Nanrong. He leans close to Jiang Yan's face and asks if he wants to see if the fists of a C-rank combat class are hard. Jiang Yan continues to drink calmly and then throws the water directly into Wang Zhou's face. Jiang Yan says that his hand slipped. Wang Zhou stands there dripping with water and shakes with anger. He screams that Jiang Yan dared to splash him and vows to smash his face in. Wang Zhou's right arm begins to transform and grow into a massive, muscular limb covered in dark fur and stone-like armor. A system message identifies him as a C-rank long-armed demonic ape. He activates the skill Partial Beastification, which doubles his arm strength. Jiang Yan's sister screams for her brother to watch out as the giant fist lunges forward. Another student reaches out and catches Wang Zhou's transformed arm with one hand. It is Liu Tao, the student Jiang Yan encountered in the forest earlier. Liu Tao looks furious and asks Wang Zhou what he thinks he is doing. Wang Zhou is completely shocked. He calls him Brother Tao and asks why he is at the restaurant. Liu Tao is a B-rank combat class who ranks in the top 50 students of his school. Wang Zhou and his friends stare at Liu Tao in fear. Wang Zhou looks at Liu Tao and tries to justify his actions. He explains that he is just teaching the F-rank trash from middle school number 1 a lesson and promises to report the details to Liu Tao later. Liu Tao delivers a powerful strike that sends Wang Zhou flying across the restaurant. He yells at Wang Zhou for daring to lay a hand on Jiang Yan and asks him if he wants to die. Wang Zhou's friends watch in terror. Wang Zhou clutches his face in pain and insists that Liu Tao must be mistaken because Jiang Yan is just an F-rank student. A new voice interrupts and states that Liu Tao is not mistaken. Liu Yuan walks toward the group with his hands in his pockets. He tells Wang Zhou that if Liu Tao had arrived any later, Jiang Yan would have already crippled Wang Zhou's hand. Wang Zhou and his friends are paralyzed with fear. They recognize Liu Yuan as the young master of the prestigious Liu family. They are confused why an S-rank top-tier student from their own school is defending Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan smiles and looks at Liu Yuan. He says it is a coincidence to see him and calls him by the nickname Xiao Yuan. Lu Yuan stammers and tells Jiang Yan to stop calling him by that name. Wang Zhou's friends are shocked that an F-rank student just called the young master of the Lu family by the nickname Xiao Yuan. They are even more surprised that Lu Yuan actually responded to him. They ask themselves if they are dreaming. Jiang Yan tells Lu Yuan that the people from high school number 7 do not know how to behave. He then asks Lu Yuan how this matter should be resolved. Wang Zhou is paralyzed with fear as he realizes the trouble he is in. Jiang Yan stands with a menacing smile and wonders what the hell is going on. Lu Yuan looks at the bullies and tells them that as students of high school number 7, they have completely disgraced the school. He orders them to get out immediately. Jiang Yan sits calmly in the shadows holding his cup. He looks at the bullies and tells them to never let him see them again. The bullies are shaking with fear and quickly agree to leave. They immediately bow down low in front of Jiang Yan's table. They shout their apologies for offending him and beg for forgiveness. Next, the bullies turn toward the waitress and bow deeply to her. They apologize for their rudeness and promise never to cause trouble in the restaurant again. The waitress watches in surprise as the bullies run out of the doors as fast as they can, leaving a cloud of dust behind. Lu Yuan stands with his hands in his pockets and tells Jian Yan that he did not expect to see him here. Jian Yan takes a sip from his cup and explains that he brought his sister out for a good meal before the college entrance examination. He then looks over his cup and asks Lu Yuan if he is also there to eat. Jian Yan smiles and takes a sip from his cup. He teases Lu Yuan, asking how they are supposed to meet if Lu Yuan does not even make it to the tournament finals. Lu Yuan looks annoyed and glares at him. He turns his back and walks away. Lu Yuan tells Jiang Yan to just wait until the finals so they can see exactly who fails to make the cut. Jiang Yan watches him leave with a gentle smile. He thinks to himself that Lu Yuan might be a rival, but he is really not a bad kid. A waitress pushes a cart full of food over to their table. She apologizes for the wait and announces that this is their set menu C. She places several plates of fancy cooked meat on the table. The dishes include premium-grade chuck roll, extra thick dry-aged pork belly, and thick-cut Wagyu skirt steak. Jian Yan thinks that just hearing the names of the food makes his mouth water. His sister stares at the plates with wide eyes and drools. She thinks about how she has only ever seen these crazy expensive ingredients on social media. They both start eating happily with their cheeks completely stuffed. Jian Yan thinks the food is unbelievable. He remembers his past life when he was kept captive like a lab rat and never got to taste anything this good. He happily praises his new freedom. His sister holds her fork and thinks the food is delicious. She feels like the luckiest girl in the world to have a big brother who treats her to a meal like this. As they continue eating, Jian Yan takes another drink. He looks across the table at his sister Xiao Yao. He asks her why she is not asking who those guys were or how he knows them. Xiao Yao looks at her brother while holding her fork and knife. She tells him that as long as it is him, he does not have to explain anything to her. Jiang Yan looks down and replies that he understands. They continue sitting quietly at their table in the fancy restaurant. Jiang Yan thinks to himself that in this life he will definitely protect her. The next day, under a bright blue sky, a massive red portal glows over the city, marking the entrance to the Demon Rift. Today is the official college entrance examination day. Inside the Nenyang Rift City base, a large crowd of students is gathered. An announcement calls for all exam participants to gather in the designated area. Jiang Yan walks through the busy crowd wearing his long trench coat with his sword on his back. He looks around and notes that there are many people here. Just then, a woman with short blue hair walks forward confidently through the crowd. The students look at her in surprise. They ask who she is and comment on how cool she looks. A student standing next to Jiang Yan points at her chest. He loudly tells everyone to look at her badge, revealing that she is an official investigator. Jiang Yan stands quietly and watches her approach. The female investigator stands in front of a massive crowd of students. She extends her arm and wishes them all the best of luck on the battlefield. The large doors open to reveal a glowing blue portal. She announces that the clock starts now. A digital countdown timer appears showing exactly 6 hours. The huge crowd of students immediately charges toward the bright portal. They yell in excitement, claiming they will make the top 100 and telling others to back off because the high point monsters belong to them. Jian Yan walks calmly forward through the rushing crowd with his hands in his pockets. He thinks to himself that the rules sound simple, but there is a lot more to it under the surface. A map of the Rift Zone appears. Jiang Yan notes that the specific area chosen for the exam is the Sinister Demon Forest, which is the absolute best testing ground. He explains that the monsters in this area range from level 15 to 25. As he walks, he imagines the giant dragon from his previous trip. He notes that unlike Poison Dragon Valley, there are no terrifying, overpowered boss-tier monsters lurking in this forest. He also realizes that the large variety of monster types means their individual strengths vary wildly. This makes it the perfect battlefield to test a bunch of students. Jiang Yan steps through the glowing blue portal. He arrives in officially entering the Sinister Demon Forest. Jiang Yan stands in the Sinister Demon Forest and looks at the large pillars of light. He notes that these are the lingering abilities of Nanrong City's strongest paragons. The powers are used to scare away high-level beasts so they do not get too close to the students. He realizes that the school is not willing to gamble with lives during a college exam. Jiang Yan thinks to himself that although he did not take this exam in his past life, he spent a lot of time here while top-tier players were power leveling him. He knows the layout of the forest perfectly. A student in the crowd calls out to everyone. He suggests forming a hunting party because the rules do not forbid teaming up. He explains that while points will be split, a party will clear monsters much faster. Several students quickly join the group. A level 16 healer and a level 17 shield defender offer their support. A mage and a level 18 archer also join to provide long-range firepower. A girl from the group approaches Jiang Yan and asks him what his class is. Jiang Yan tells her that he is an F-rank farmer. The entire group looks at him with shocked and disgusted expressions. They immediately tell him to have fun by himself. They wonder how a trash class like a farmer even managed to qualify for the exam. The group walks away and tells each other to stay away from Jiang Yan because he will only drag them down. Jiang Yan walks away in the opposite direction with his hands in his pockets. He thinks to himself that being an F-rank makes it very easy for people to toss him aside. He notes that he is starting to get used to this treatment. Jiang Yan looks over his shoulder with a confident smile. He thinks that proving everyone wrong and surprising them is exactly how he likes to operate. He looks up at the dark moon in the sky and declares that his real work starts right now. Jiang Yan stands in the forest. He thinks to himself that the novice base was just a playground for rookies, and his name is going to become a legend during this exam. In the Nanyang City College Exam Observation Room. This is a grand hall with many rows of theater seats. A massive screen at the front displays the city's 9th college exam leaderboard. The principal of 3rd High School, Zhang Zhendong, is an elderly man with a gray beard. He smiles and says he cannot wait to see the fierce competition today. He notes that the gap between the top scorer and the runner-up has been razor thin for the past few years. Sima Ling, the principal of 7th High School, strokes his mustache while sitting nearby. He boasts that his school produced 4 S-rank prodigies this year. He confidently states that the city's top scorer will come from 7th High once again. Jian Yan's principal sits with them and speaks up. He tells Sima Ling that even though he is an A-rank class, he is not any stronger than himself. He argues that judging a person's potential purely by their class rank is a fool's errand. Sima Ling smirks and asks if he is talking about the F-rank trash from his school who scraped by for 3 years. He asks if the principal actually believes an F-rank student can take the top scorer spot. Zhang Zhendong adds that while rank isn't everything, an F-rank class does not even have the right to sit at the same table as the rest of them. Jian Yan's principal stands up in a rage and clenches his fist. He shouts that their words are a load of bullshit. He reminds them that his student shattered multiple clear records at the novice training base. He yells that Jian Yan is going to blow their minds. Sima Ling simply scoffs and tells him that the novice base is just for rookies. He mocks the principal for thinking that such a small achievement is worth bragging about. Principal Sima Ling and Zhang Zhendong continue to mock First High. Sima Ling says that First High is clearly out of talent this year. The principal of First High glares at them and calls them bastards. Suddenly, the crowd in the observation room begins to shout in surprise. One person yells that the exam started only 5 minutes ago, yet someone has already killed a monster and scored points. Others shout to look at the screen and check the student's class. They scream that it must be a glitch because the situation is insane. They cannot believe someone got a kill in just 5 minutes. The 3 principals stare at the screen. Sima Ling wonders which major family produced this prodigy. First High's principal wonders if it could actually be the kid he was talking about. He looks at the screen and develops a proud smile. He thinks to himself that the brilliant little bastard actually did it. Sima Ling and Zhang Zhendong tremble with shock. They ask how an F-rank student could possibly kill a high-point beast in under 5 minutes. The leaderboard on the large screen shows Jiang Yan in first place. It confirms he is from First High and has the F-rank classes of Tinker and Farmer. He currently has 36 points. Back in the sinister demon forest, Jiang Yan stands near a dead monster. He thinks to himself that he is very lucky to find a level 20 beast so quickly. He draws his glowing blue sword from its sheath. 3 more large black wolves with glowing red eyes jump out of the mist and surround him. Jiang Yan smiles and rests his sword on his shoulder. He looks at the monsters and tells them that he will gladly take the points from the 3 of them as well. 3 large black beasts with glowing yellow eyes step out of the green mist. A system screen identifies them as level 21 black-striped demon tigers. The text notes they are some of the most ferocious beasts in the sinister demon forest. Jiang Yan remembers the exam rules, which state students must hunt beasts to earn points based on the monster's strength. He thinks to himself that it is a shame they are not allowed to harvest materials from the kills, calling it a complete waste. Suddenly, the 3 demon tigers roar and charge at him with incredible speed. Jiang Yan draws his sword from his back. He thinks that for an ordinary student, fighting a whole pack of these monsters is as suicidal as fighting a top-tier boss alone. Jiang Yan smiles confidently from the shadows. He notes that to him, these monsters are basically just cannon fodder. He explains that even the wealthiest families in the city could not easily get gear like his cyan steel sword and Kirin skin trench coat. With a swift strike, he defeats one of the tigers. System notifications appear, confirming he gained 900 experience points and 36 exam points for the kill. Seeing its pack member die, another tiger roars loudly. Blue lightning surrounds the beast's body. The system screen shows the tiger activated a skill called Black Striped Fierce Power, which increases its agility and strength by 15%. Jiang Yan watches the glowing monster and smirks. He thinks to himself that by activating a skill, the tiger just played right into his hands. Jiang Yan snaps his fingers and activates his modify skill. A system screen appears, showing that he changed the tiger's active skill from black-striped fierce power to black-striped feeble power. This new skill reduces the monster's agility and strength by 15%. The charging demon tiger suddenly stumbles, looking weak and sweating in surprise. Jiang Yan swings his sword in a wide circle. He notes that the sheer shock of realizing its own skill is debuffing it leaves the beast wide open for a fatal strike. He slashes cleanly through the weakened tiger. A system message confirms the level 21 black-striped demon tiger is killed, granting him 950 experience points, and his bracelet notifies him of another 36 exam points. The last remaining tiger looks at him in terror and turns to run away. Jiang Yan smirks and says that figuring out it needs to run away now is a little too late. He swings his large blue sword down, slicing straight through the fleeing beast. System screens show he killed the level 20 tiger, gaining 900 experience points and another 36 exam points. Jiang Yan stands in the forest and holds his sword. He thinks to himself that he needs to push deeper into the forest, noting that the higher the level and strength of the beast, the better the points. He walks forward into the dense green trees, declaring that his goal was never just to take first place. Jiang Yan smiles confidently as he walks. He declares that his true goal is to become an absolute legend in this exam. His bracelet glows, displaying the current point rankings. Jiang Yan is securely in first place with 108 points, while Li Yufeng is in second with 73, and Lu Yuan is in third with 69. In another part of the forest, a student from 3rd High named Zhao Ao looks at his glowing bracelet in disbelief. He is a level 19 Swift Blade with a B-rank combat class and currently has 13 points. Zhao Ao angrily asks how an F-rank piece of trash managed to sneak into the top 10. He is extremely annoyed that Jiang Yan has the nerve to rank higher than their boss, Li Yufeng. Standing next to him are twin brothers from the same school, Shu Lang and Shu Li. They are both level 17 claw fighters with C-rank combat classes and 13 points. The twins cross their arms and state that Boss Yufeng is an S-rank sword saint, so there is no way he can lose to an F-rank loser. They claim that the F-rank trash must be cheating. One of the twins suggests that if Jiang Yan wants to play dirty, they should show him how it is really done. Zhao Ao smirks at the idea. The twins smile back and clench their fists, agreeing that it sounds like a plan. They declare that the top scorer title this year belongs only to Boss Yufeng of 3rd High. Meanwhile, a massive blue three-eyed wild bull charges aggressively through the forest. Jiang Yan easily dodges the beast. He thinks to himself that the situation is weird because the deeper he goes into the forest, the fewer strong monsters he encounters. He swiftly cuts down the beast. System screens confirm he killed the level 23-eyed wild bull, gaining 800 experience points and 28 exam points. Suddenly, a hand wearing a dark glove with gold trims claps out loud. A mysterious voice calls out to Jiang Yan, praising him as incredible and stating that they expected nothing less from the guy sitting at the number 1 spot. Jiang Yan turns his head and asks who is there. Zhao Ao steps out of the bushes, waving his hands with a fake friendly smile while the twins stand behind him. Zhao Ao introduces them as students from 3rd High and asks Jiang Yan if he would be open to teaming up with them for a little collaboration. Jiang Yan walks past them with his hands in his pockets and bluntly replies that he is not interested. The 3 students stand frozen in shock. Jiang Yan thinks to himself that although they say they want to team up, their faces make it completely obvious that they are up to no good. Zhao Ao quickly runs ahead to stop him, asking what if they told him they know where a monster nest is located. Zhao Ao raises his finger with a sly smile and explains that the nest is crawling with powerful beasts that are worth massive points. The twins stand close behind Jiang Yan with smug expressions. Zhao Ao tells Jiang Yan that if he wants to keep his number 1 spot, he will need a huge haul of points. The twins eagerly agree and shout, "Exactly." Zhao Ao clasps his hands together and smiles eagerly at Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan smirks in the shadows. He thinks to himself that these guys are definitely planning something. He notes that out of the tens of thousands of kids taking the exam, they specifically tracked him down and threw out bait they knew he could not ignore. Looking serious, Jiang Yan thinks it is almost cute how painfully obvious their trap is, noting that high schoolers are truly amateurs. However, his expression turns dark and confident. He thinks that if they want to play dirty with him, he will just have to return the favor. Jiang Yan turns back toward them, scratches his head, and pretends to be excited. He asks if they are serious and if they actually found a nest. He claims he has been running in circles trying to find a decent cluster of monsters. Xiao Ao looks down with an evil, shadowy smirk. He thinks to himself that Jiang Yan took the bait. He vows that if Jiang Yan thinks he can steal the first place spot from Boss Yufeng, they will drag him straight to hell. Xiao Ao assures Jiang Yan that the monster nest is real. He tells Jiang Yan to follow them and warns that they need to hurry before someone else takes the monsters. Jiang Yan smiles and tells them to lead the way. As they walk through the forest, the 3 students whisper to each other. One of the twins thinks about luring Jiang Yan into the middle of nowhere to beat him half to death. The other twin agrees, noting that this will stop him from getting in Boss Yufeng's way ever again. Zhao Ao grins evilly and thinks that Boss Yufeng's father is paying them a fortune to do this. A flashback shows a wealthy man in a suit addressing the boys in a grand hall. The man orders them to do whatever it takes to clear out anyone threatening Yufeng's rank. In return, he promises to pull some strings and secure their enlistment in the military. He reminds them that they are B and C rank combat classes, and says a military career is much brighter than rotting in some ordinary university. Back in the present, Zhao Al looks back at Zhang Yan with a smug expression. He thinks to himself that he originally expected only S-rank prodigies to threaten Boss Yufeng's spot. He never imagined an F-rank loser would somehow sneak his way to the top. He grins darkly, thinking that this situation is a godsend because dealing with Jiang Yan will secure their golden ticket into the military. Suddenly, Jiang Yan points forward with an excited face. He shouts that he sees it and that it really looks like a nest up ahead. Zhao Ao looks in that direction in shock. Before Zhao Ao can react, Jiang Yan dashes forward with extreme speed. Zhao Ao's eyes widen and he sweats in panic, screaming to ask what the hell Jiang Yan is doing. Jiang Yan runs off into the deep forest. Zhao Ao yells at the twins to go after him and not let him get away. The three of them frantically run as fast as they can to catch up. Zhao Ao and the twin brothers chase Jiang Yan deeper into the misty forest. Zhao Ao smiles and notes that they are completely isolated, making it the perfect time to strike. He yells to the twins, telling them to do it now. The twins prepare their claw weapons and eagerly agree to attack. Before they can strike, a giant black bird claw suddenly descends and grabs one of the twins, Shu Li. He looks completely shocked and terrified as the claw clamps around his body. A massive teal-eyed bird monster flies up into the air, carrying Shu Li away. A system screen appears, identifying the creature as a level 25 blue-winged vulture, which is a high-threat sub-boss. Zhao Ao and the older twin, Shlang, look up in absolute horror. Shlang screams his brother's name, while Zhao Ao shouts, "Little bro!" Shlang lunges forward, yelling for the monster to put his brother down. However, the vulture flies high out of reach into the trees. The giant bird then brutally slams the captured twin down onto the hard ground with a loud crash. Zhao Ao stands in absolute shock as the dust from the attack clears. Sweating and looking terrified, he asks how this is possible. He wonders what a sub-boss tier monster is doing all the way out here. He suddenly has a realization and quickly turns his head toward Jiang Yan. In the distance, Jiang Yan stands completely calm in the green mist with his hands in his pockets. Zhao Ao's face twists in horror as he notices Jiang Yan is smiling. Zhao Ao realizes that they walk right into Jiang Yan's trap. Jiang Yan smiles confidently and says he was not lying when he said he knew his way around the sinister demon forest. He looks up as a giant blue-winged vulture flies overhead through the green forest canopy. Jiang Yan explains that because blue-winged vultures are rare, he did not want to waste his time tracking them down himself. However, he says that right now they are exactly what he needs. Zhao Ao becomes furious and yells at Jiang Yan. He accuses Jiang Yan of playing them, asking if he knew a sub-boss tier monster was hiding there the entire time. Jiang Yan stands calmly and looks back at him. He asks if they were not the ones who wanted to play dirty first. He tells them he is just returning the favor, and mockingly adds that they clearly suck at it. Jiang Yan delivers a powerful kick to Zhao Ao, sending him flying backward. Zhao Ao coughs up blood and thinks to himself that students die every year during the exams, assumes Jiang Yan is definitely going to kill him. He is terrified as Jiang Yan approaches him. Jiang Yan sheathes his glowing blue sword and tells Zhao Ao that he is not like them. He adds that trash like him is not even worth killing. Zhao Ao looks stunned and asks in disbelief if he really is not worth killing. Jiang Yan explains that he is an upstanding, law-abiding citizen and sees no reason to murder people over nothing. He declares that he is not like these nobodies, but rather the man who is going to be the top scorer of Nanrong City. As Jiang Yan turns to walk away, Zhao Ao reaches out and grabs Jiang Yan's leg, begging for his help. He pleads with Jiang Yan to please save his brother. Above them, the massive blue-winged vulture continues to fly away while carrying the kidnapped brother in its claws. The brother screams for help and calls out to the bastard who took him. Shulang lies on the ground and holds onto Jiang Yan's ankle. He cries and hits his head against the dirt, admitting that they were completely wrong and never should have tried to hurt him. He desperately begs Jiang Yan to please save his little brother. Jiang Yan tells Shulang that he also has a younger sister, so he will consider this a favor on her behalf. Jiang Yan reaches down and picks up a small, ordinary rock from the grass. He tosses the rock in his hand and tells Shulang to watch closely. He states that this is the real gap between them. Jiang Yan pulls his arm back and throws the rock with incredible force. The rock shoots through the air like a bullet, creating a massive tunnel of wind. The high-speed rock strikes the giant blue-winged vulture directly in the body. The massive bird loses its grip and crashes violently into the forest floor, creating a huge shockwave of dust and debris. System screens appear confirming that the level 25 blue-winged vulture has been killed. Jiang Yan gains 1,500 experience points and is awarded 50 exam points on his bracelet. Shu Lang stares in shock and notes that the monster died from just one hit. He immediately gets up and sprints past Jiang Yan, yelling for his little brother. Shu Lang reaches the crash site and forces the giant bird's claws open. He shouts for the claws to break. He pulls his brother out and holds his shoulders, urgently asking if he is okay and telling him to say something. The younger brother looks dazed but replies that he is okay and just a little spooked. Jiang Yan walks away with his hands in his pockets, leaving the two brothers alone. He thinks to himself that everyone has something they want to protect. He looks determined and thinks about his own desire to protect his sister. In his memory, Jiang Yan knows that to protect his sister, he must secure the top scorer spot to win the resources and rewards. As he walks alone through the glowing green forest, he checks his bracelet. He realizes that if he keeps hunting low-level beasts, he will never catch up to the top rankers. Jiang Yan realizes he needs to change his strategy to get more points. He decides to find a large group of high-level beasts. A blue system screen appears, showing he activated the skill Spiritual Detection. He senses exactly what he is looking for hiding deep in the mist, 2 kilometers ahead. Another system screen shows he activated the skill Lightning Steps. He dashes through the forest at extreme speeds, leaving a bright trail of blue lightning behind him. He declares it is time to farm some serious points. In the observation room, Principal Sima Ling sits in his chair drinking tea and states that the exam is going exactly as expected and his school is completely dominating the current standings. A notification pops up showing the latest score updates. Sima Ling smiles widely and excitedly announces that his student, Yu Feng, is securely holding the #1 spot. The large leaderboard screen shows Li Yufeng in first place with 102 points. Meanwhile, Jian Yan has dropped down to 5th place with only 50 points. Sima Ling stands up from his chair, raises his fist, and shouts triumphantly. He yells that he was right all along and First High simply cannot keep up with his school's prodigies. Principal Zhang Zhendong stares at the screen in shock and asks what is going on with the F-rank kid. He points out that Jiang Yan is nearly doubling the second-place score and wonders how that is even mathematically possible. Sima Ling sits next to him, sweating and trembling in silence. The female investigator with short blue hair looks at the large leaderboard. She finds it fascinating that a dual F-rank student is performing this well and wonders what kind of monster they have stumbled upon. Back in the sinister demon forest, Jiang Yan sits exhausted on top of a massive dead beast. He pants heavily and notes that soloing an entire monster nest definitely took a bit of effort. His bracelet displays his massive final score of 2,132 points. The digital countdown timer hits 0. A loud announcement echoes through the forest, stating that the exam has officially concluded and any beasts killed after the time limit will not be counted toward the score. Jiang Yan stands up on the giant monster's corpse. He smiles and notes that the exam is finally over, adding that the timing could not have been better. He thinks to himself that thanks to the guy who lured him to the nest, he has already finished modifying all 5 of his skills. Jian Yan puts his hands in his coat pockets and smiles confidently. He declares that the upcoming Top 100 Arena tournament will be his perfect stage to shine once again. Hey guys, I've just started a new manga recap channel. My goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers in the next 10 days, so please subscribe to the channel and watch the first video. I really hope you'll enjoy it. You'll find the link in the top corner and in the pinned comment. Please hit the subscribe button and help me reach 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. And announces that the exam has officially concluded. She tells the students who did not make the top 100 leaderboard that they are dismissed and must wait for their admission notices at home. A group of defeated students walks away from the portal. They complain that getting into a first-rate university is a pipe dream because many cities are fighting for just 10 top-tier schools. One student admits he will be thrilled just to scrape into a second or third-tier university. Jiang Yan walks past the disappointed crowd with his hands in his pockets. He thinks to himself that there is a strict hierarchy even among those 10 top-tier universities. He notes that the absolute pinnacle consists of the 3 national prestige universities. Jiang Yan explains that Glory University focuses on launching offensives into the demon rifts to conquer new territories. He describes Legacy University, which focuses entirely on defending human civilization and sealing the rift fractures. He notes that Sacred University champions a balanced approach of both offense and defense. He states that only the top 30 students in a city even qualify to apply to these 3 schools. He also knows that getting accepted into any of them is a one-way ticket to the absolute elite. He thinks about choosing the one university that perfectly aligns with his own philosophy. The student grabs Jiang Yan by the shoulder and tells him to snap out of it, because it is time to go. He explains that the announcements are over, the top 100 tournament starts in 3 days, and the principal wants everyone who made the cut to gather immediately. Jiang Yan smiles and teases him, asking if he actually made the top 100 too. The student looks annoyed and asks what that is supposed to mean. As they walk together through the crowd, he proudly states that he is ranked 2nd in combat at First High, meaning Jiang Yan is the only person ahead of him. He declares that he is actually very strong himself. Jiang Yan thinks about his future. He decides that his choice is Glory University. He thinks to himself that the monsters inside the demon rifts will eventually multiply beyond control. He believes that if humanity does not push the offensive and carve out their own territory inside the rifts, they will forever be sitting ducks. He concludes his thoughts by stating that the best defense is a relentless offense. The student interrupts his thoughts and asks Jiang Yan which university he is aiming for. He smiles confidently and explains that with his current score, he should comfortably finish in the top 80. He believes that securing a spot at either Radiant University or Primordial University, which rank 8th and 9th among the top 10, should be a breeze for him. He then looks at Jiang Yan and asks about his plans. Jiang Yan looks ahead with a determined stare and replies that his eyes are set on glory. The student yells the word glory in disbelief. He grabs Jiang Yan by the head and asks if he has completely lost his mind. He shouts that Glory is the #1 university in the entire country. Jiang Yan calmly pushes the student's hands away. He states that once he secures the top scorer title for Nanrong City, getting into Glory is just the logical next step. He asks his friend what is so shocking about that plan. The student warns him that there is a huge difference between hunting brainless monsters in the wild and fighting other students in a sanctioned arena. He explains that those A-rank and S-rank freaks have an overwhelming natural advantage. He thinks to himself that the raw power of their skills will completely blow Jianyan's useless F-rank abilities out of the water. Suddenly, he stops and sweats nervously. He realizes he should not say that out loud because it might crush Jianyan's confidence. He quickly changes his tone and acts self-deprecating to protect Jianyan's feelings. He loudly agrees that it is a tough crowd this year. He complains that let alone S-ranks, even a B-rank combat class has innate skills that completely outclass his own. He sighs, looking defeated, and says the heavens are really unfair. He sweats in relief and thinks it is a good thing Jiang Yan did not realize he was actually talking about him. Jiang Yan looks at his friend and smiles softly. He realizes the student is purposely putting himself down just to protect his pride. Jiang Yan thinks to himself that his friend should not worry, because his own skills are vastly more terrifying than anyone could ever imagine. He thinks back to his past life. He notes that he discovered only S-rank skill orbs could actually level up his modified skill. He explains that S-rank orbs are incredibly rare. Because he was kept captive like a lab rat in his past life, he only managed to push his skill to level 3. A system screen appears, describing skill orbs as extremely rare and expensive items dropped by demonic beasts that can level up a user's skills. Jiang Yan thinks about his past life. He notes that even at level 3, his modified skill allowed him to forge genuine divine tier artifacts. He states that cheap imitations cannot compare to the real deal. However, he realizes there is a catch. Skill orbs only have a small chance of dropping from Apex boss tier monsters. He decides his best option is to search the black market to see if anyone is selling them, even though he probably cannot afford one yet. Suddenly, a loud voice tells them to knock off their self-pity. Jiang Yan looks over in surprise and wonders if the voice is talking about his friend's complaints about the heavens being unfair. The principal of First High walks toward them alongside Vice Principal Zhu Kang. The principal proudly tells Jiang Yan that even though he is an F rank, he literally just took first place on the leaderboard. He declares that the whole city watched Jiang Yan dominate and calls him an absolute powerhouse. The student trembles and thinks to himself that the principal has never praised a student this publicly before, making Jiang Yan the very first. Jiang Yan replies to the principal, pointing out that the arena tournament is a completely different beast. The student panics and waves his hands frantically at Jiang Yan. He urges him to show at least a little bit of respect because the principal is standing right in front of them. The principal smiles at Jiang Yan and asks if he is planning on throwing in the towel. Beside him, Vice Principal Zhu Kang thinks to himself that at least the kid is self-aware enough to know his limits. The student sweats nervously while Jiang Yan stands quietly. Jiang Yan smiles confidently from the shadows. He declares that he will not throw in the towel because the top scorer title is already his. The principal bursts into loud laughter. He grabs Jiang Yan by the shoulders and says he knew Jiang Yan would say that. Standing behind them, Vice Principal Zhu Kang sweats and thinks to himself that the arrogant brat has not changed a bit. The principal tells the boys to follow him. He walks away with his arms around Jiang Yan and the student. The principal explains that he has prepared a specialized Hell Week training camp exclusively for the top 100 qualifiers. He promises that First High's elite instructors will beat real combat sense into them. In the First High Indoor Martial Arts Stadium, the principal stands in front of 3 instructors and tells them that each grade head will lead a 3-person squad for live combat training. He explains that exactly 10 students from their school qualified this year. He tells the instructors he is leaving these 9 students in their capable hands. The physical combat head Liu Yun agrees to mold the 9 students into shape. Kaiyan Ye tells the students not to expect the teachers to hold back because their futures depend on this tournament. Finally, the combat theory head, Sun Yue, pushes up his glasses. He reminds the students that rigorous combat theory keeps the mind sharp, adding that strategy is just as lethal as a blade. Yang Hongwei raises his hand and tells the principal he has a question. The principal asks what it is. Yang points across the room and asks if Jiang Yan does not need combat training. He complains and asks why Jiang Yan gets to relax while the rest of them suffer. He replies that Jiang Yan's combat instructor is a little out of their league. The principal announces that he will take Jiang Yan under his wing and personally guide his combat training. Yang Hongwei and the students stand frozen in absolute shock. They stammer and ask if the principal is really going to spar with him personally. A text box notes that Principal Ouyang Lai is one of the 12 guardian deities of Nanrong City and a level 61 Grandmaster. 2 of the instructors also look completely surprised. One instructor states that in all his years of teaching at First High, he has never seen the principal offer personal training to a single student. Jiang Yan sweats nervously and looks at the principal's imposing back. He is shocked that one of the 12 guardian deities wants to train him personally. Jiang Yan's face is cast in shadow, and he looks very anxious. He suspects the principal is planning to test his real limits. He thinks to himself that the old man is definitely plotting something extremely painful for him. Mr. Kian claps his hands and instructs all the students to follow him. He announces that they are moving to the outdoor training grounds. Yang Hongwei immediately becomes angry and asks Mr. Kian how that decision is fair. He complains loudly to the room. He says it is one thing for the principal to train Jiang Yan personally, but now Jiang Yan gets the entire indoor stadium to himself while the 9 of them are kicked out. The student looks annoyed and thinks that Yang Hongwei is just looking for trouble again. However, he also agrees with the complaint, noting that it really is just Jiang Yan alone inside while the rest of them are kicked out. Suddenly, a student named Xingji speaks up and repeats the word fair. She turns to Yang Hongwei and tells him that if he manages to take first place on the leaderboard, the indoor stadium will belong entirely to him as well. She crosses her arms, looks down at him, and tells him to stop whining like a child because he is just a painfully average guy. Yang Hongwei trembles with rage and clenches his fist. Beside him, the student holds his hand over his mouth to hold back his laughter. He thinks to himself that calling Yang painfully average deals serious emotional damage and is a complete critical hit. As the group prepares to leave, Qingji glances back toward Jiang Yan with a small smile. She thinks to herself about his strength. She reminds herself that Jiang Yan won first place in both academics and combat for 3 straight years. She realizes that even though he awakened an F-rank class, his actual combat power is truly insane. Then she looks back at Jiang Yan sitting on the bench and thinks to herself that she needs to get on his good side. She realizes that if he gets into the top 3 national prestige universities, having him marry into the Qing family would be a very good idea. Jiang Yan thinks she has a vicious tongue and decides to keep his distance so he never makes her angry. The principal cracks his knuckles with a wide smile. He announces the start of the exclusive training for their #1 ranker, Jiang Yan. The principal raises one finger toward the ceiling and proudly declares that he has officially named this program the First High Top Scorer Project, also known as the FHTSP. Vice Principal Zhu Kang gets angry and yells at him. He tells the principal to act his age because he has 1 foot in the grave. Jiang Yan thinks to himself that the principal acts very childish. In an empty indoor combat ring, the principal holds a microphone and tells Jiang Yan to step up to the arena. He announces that Jiang Yan's first combat instructor will be the head of the Close Quarters Combat Department. A fit woman wearing red boxing gloves steps forward. Her name is Ms. Zhang Yan. She smiles at Jiang Yan and tells him that it has been a while. Ms. Zhang taps her red boxing gloves together. A green leopard aura glows around her eye as she warns Jiang Yan that she will not hold anything back. A system screen shows she is a level 51 B-rank leopard spirit brawler. Jiang Yan steps into the ring and sweats nervously. He knows she is the undisputed best melee fighter at their school and realizes the principal has high expectations for him. He remembers her reputation. She was the grand champion of a regional combat tournament where she beat at least 1,000 people into the dirt. When the principal first hired her, she easily beat up every teacher who questioned her authority. Because of this, she earned the nickname the 3-Punch Dream Crusher. In the background, the principal cheers loudly with a microphone. Jiang Yan looks at him with a blank stare, thinking that the principal is throwing him to the wolves right out of the gate. Ms. Zhang tells Jiang Yan he is allowed to use a weapon. She offers to lower her stats to match his current level and asks what level he is at right now. Jiang Yan summons his large glowing blue sword. He explains that he hunted a lot of beasts during the preliminaries and is currently level 22. A system screen confirms his level and his dual F-rank utility classes. The principal and vice principal watch in surprise. The principal notes that Jiang Yan leveled up twice just from the preliminaries by treating the exam grounds like his own personal farming zone. Jiang Yan thinks about the power of national-level resources. With endless monsters to hunt and elite guards ensuring safety, he notes it would be harder not to get stronger in that environment. Ms. Zhang praises him for exploiting every resource. She tells him the rules for the session are simple. If he beats her, he passes. Jiang Yan grips his large sword and asks her to excuse him for not holding back. He knows he has to push himself to secure more resources. He dashes forward, leaving a trail of blue light. He thinks about how she has been his close-quarters combat instructor for 3 years and he has never beaten her in his past or present life. However, he believes his combat experience from reaching level 70 in his past life will definitely allow him to win. As he thrusts his glowing sword forward, Ms. Zhang instantly moves past his blade with incredible speed. She tells him he left an opening. Her red boxing glove flies directly toward his face, leaving him wide-eyed in shock. Ms. Zhang lands a massive punch directly on Jiang Yan's face. The impact sends him flying backward across the ring, and he crashes hard onto the floor. He realizes his past experience is not enough to win this easily. Lying on the ground, Jiang Yan admits that Ms. Zhang is absurdly strong. However, he refuses to stay down and slowly pushes himself back up. He grips his large sword tightly, declares that he is not giving up, and charges right back into the fight. Meanwhile, in another part of the stadium, loud thudding sounds echo through the building. The other top students stop and listen to the noise. One student asks what the sound is, and Qingji replies that it sounds like someone hitting a punching bag. Yang Hongwei crosses his arms and smiles mockingly. He assumes the principal is just making Jiang Yan do basic bag training. He calls Jiang Yan a pathetic F-rank loser, claiming he would not get any stronger even if he destroyed 100 punching bags. Instructor Jianye sweats nervously and disagrees with the students. He states that he knows that sound way too well. He remembers a flashback where he was punched directly in the face by Miss Zhang Yun. He thinks about how he used to be a top contender for the live combat department head position until he took a single hit from her. He realizes that the thudding sound is not a punching bag, but her fists repeatedly striking a human body. Jianye claps his hands to distract the students and yells at them to quit eavesdropping and focus on their training. He looks toward the gym doors and silently wishes Jianye good luck. The time changes to 3 in the morning. Inside the indoor arena, sweat drips onto the floor. The principal thought it was no wonder Jianye took first place on the leaderboard. Beside him, Vice Principal Zhu Kang stares in complete disbelief. He wonders how the boy is still standing after taking such a beatdown, admitting to himself that he severely underestimated Shang Yan. Shang Yan leans heavily against a railing, bleeding and panting while barely holding onto his sword. He is so battered that he can barely stand, relying purely on willpower to stay upright. Miss Shang Yun stands in the ring, wiping sweat from her brow, and asks if he wants to call it a night and pick this up tomorrow. Jiang Yan looks up, covered in sweat, and tells Miss Shang that she is not beating him tonight. He refuses to take a break because the top 100 tournament is in 3 days and he has no time to rest. He pants heavily, smirks through his exhaustion, and adds that he is already confident he can take her down. Jiang asks if he really thinks he can take her down. She dashes forward, stating that plenty of people have said that to her, but not a single person has ever backed it up. She moves with extreme speed and lands a brutal punch directly into Jiang Yan's chest. She declares that close quarters combat is her absolute pride and yells at Jiang Yan to stay down. The force of the strike knocks Jiang Yan backward, causing him to cough up spit. Despite taking the heavy hit, Jiang Yan looks up through the dust and smirks with a grin on his face. Jiang Yan uses the ring ropes behind him to absorb the impact of her hit. Using the rebound force, he leaps into the air with incredible speed, taking Ms. Zhang completely by surprise. He closes the distance in an instant, slipping right past her guard while she is still recovering from her punch. Ms. Zhang looks over in shock as a shadow sweeps across her face. Jiang Yan extends his leg and delivers a powerful kick directly to her chin. He thinks to himself that this was exactly what he planned all along. By using her own momentum against her, he created the perfect opening for a single decisive strike. Ms. Zhang is knocked backward as her head snaps back from the force of the kick. Jiang Yan smirks through his bruises and dirt, declaring that he is the one winning this spar. The principal and vice principal watch in complete shock. The principal is amazed that Jiang Yan pulled off a clever trick like that. Vice Principal Zhu Kang sweats nervously, asking himself if the kid really pushed himself that far to win. Miss Zhang flies out of the ring and crashes onto the floor. An official announcement confirms that Miss Zhang has fallen out of the ring, declaring that Jiang Yan passes the test. Jiang Yan sits exhausted on the floor against the ropes, panting heavily. He looks over at his instructor and asks if Miss Zhang is going to be alright. The principal looks down at Miss Zhang lying flat on her back and hesitates. He remembers how hard he worked to recruit her and notes that he knows her temper better than anyone. He thinks to himself that she is fiercely competitive and hates losing, so losing to a student means she will throw a fit for days. He silently apologizes to her, thinking that this is a necessary sacrifice for First High to secure the top scorer title. Suddenly, Ms. Zhang sits up and bursts into loud, hysterical laughter. The principal freezes in terror, sweating with wide eyes. He panics and wonders if she just snapped and is laughing out of pure rage. The principal looks over at Jiang Yan and nods solemnly to himself, deciding that he has to step in and protect his star pupil. Ms. Zhang sits up on the wooden floor and wipes her face. She smiles and calls Jiang Yan a little brat, admitting she cannot believe he used her own momentum against her. She praises his move as brilliant, adding that he is even crazier than she was at his age. Jiang Yan sits against the ring ropes, covered in bruises and dirt. He smiles back and admits she is not a pushover either, stating that in a pure test of speed, she nearly beat him to death. Miss Zhang looks at him curiously and asks how he came up with that strategy. She notes that he even calculated the exact amount of force needed to knock her out of bounds. Jiang Yan leans back comfortably on the floor and breaks down his strategy. He explains that as an agility-focused leopard spirit brawler, her speed leaves him with no chance in a direct contest, and her raw physical strength is terrifying. However, as she was beating him into the ground, he realized something important. He noticed she was putting all her effort into dodging and avoiding taking hits. He concludes that compared to her overwhelming offensive power, her physical defense is actually frail. Ms. Zhang looks at him dismissively and claims he could have figured that out just by looking at her slim build. Jiang Yan looks up at her with a serious expression and tells her that she is missing the point. Jiang Yan explains that he is talking about the ratio of her strength compared to her defense. Up on the balcony, the principal explains the strategy to Vice Principal Zhu Kang. He notes that Jiang Yan's own strength would not have been enough to break through Ms. Zhang's guard, but redirecting her own massive force back at her was more than enough to take her down. Ms. Zhang looks at Jiang Yan in shock. She asks if he was plotting this entire sequence while actively getting beaten to a pulp. Jiang Yan grins smugly through his pain and confirms it. He winces in agony, explaining that this was the only way he could ever win against her in close quarters combat because trying to overpower her with his own strength was impossible. Jiang Yan thinks back to their training sessions over the past 3 years. He remembers how she always lowered her level to spar with him, yet he was completely destroyed every single time he tried to fight her directly. He realizes that using the arena ropes was a spur-of-the-moment idea born from everything she taught him over the years. Miss Zhang listens to him in surprise. Jiang Yan continues his internal monologue, noting that facing a vastly stronger opponent requires fighting smarter and using their own power against them. He realizes that if an F rank wants to win, he has to think 10 steps ahead of everyone else. Jiang Yan looks down at his bruised fist. He admits to himself that he has been relying too much on his modify skill and past life memories. He resolves to become infinitely stronger if he truly wants to protect everything he holds dear. Miss Chang watches him with a warm smile. She thinks to herself that Jiang Yan is an incredible kid. She respects his ability to endure extreme agony until she dropped her guard, noting that a normal person would have broken long before that. Mr. Zhang continues to admire Jiang Yan's focus, noting that he endured extreme pain the entire time just waiting for a split-second opening to counterattack. She unstraps her red boxing gloves, stands tall, and gives Jiang Yan a thumbs up. She announces that he has passed her trial fair and square. Up on the balcony, the principal gives a thumbs up as well. He thinks to himself that seeing Ms. Zhang approve of a student is like watching the sun rise in the west. Jiang Yan uses the ring ropes to pull his battered body up and bows deeply to her. He thanks Ms. Zhang for her guidance, promising to carry the lessons from this fight for the rest of his life. The principal walks over and praises Jiang Yan, calling him a real man. Vice Principal Zhu Kang admits to himself that he was completely wrong about the boy. He realizes that even though Jiang Yan is an F rank, he is truly someone special. Suddenly, Vice Principal Zhu Kang steps directly into the ring. The principal runs after him in a panic, yelling that his training session with Jiang Yan is not supposed to start until tomorrow. Vice Principal Zhu Kang walks straight into the ring toward Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan watches him with a cautious look, wondering what the vice principal wants since he has always looked down on him like dirt. Vice Principal Zhu Kang reaches into his suit jacket and pulls out a small wooden box. He holds the box out to Jiang Yan and explains that it contains a tendon renewal pill, made by a level 60 pharmacist. He tells Jiang Yan to take it so he can be completely recovered by tomorrow. The principal stares in total shock. He thinks to himself that refining a single tendon renewal pill requires a high-level pharmacist and rare monster materials, making it cost tens of thousands of dollars. He notes that in the entire city, only the Chamber of Commerce sells them by reservation, and he cannot believe Zhu King is giving away something so valuable. Jiang Yan hesitates and asks Vice Principal Zhu King if he is sure about giving him something so expensive. Without saying another word, Vice Principal Zhu King presses the wooden box directly into Jiang Yan's hands. As Vice Principal Zhu King turns to walk away, Jiang Yan holds the box and wonders what the Vice Principal is scheming, remembering how much he used to despise his trash cheer class. Vice Principal Zhu Kang looks back over his shoulder and tells Jiang Yan to go home, get some proper rest, and not be late for tomorrow's training. Jiang Yan watches him leave the arena. He looks down at the wooden box in his hand and smiles softly, thinking to himself that the teachers at First High are actually not so bad after all. Jiang Yan waves his hand from the ring and shouts that he promises he will not be late. Vice Principal Zhu Chang stops walking and turns back toward him with a stern smile. He warns Jiang Yan that he had better mentally prepare himself, stating that as First High's strongest mage, he absolutely refuses to go easy on him tomorrow. Jiang Yan holds the wooden pill box and grins confidently through his bruises. He replies that this is exactly what he was hoping to hear, declaring that to defeat the vice principal, he will be bringing everything he has got.